first decider of the day of the qualifiers, Valdy versus JIF, a best of 5 coming up with a game number 1 on Hill and Dale.
But wait, Lidakor. We have 4 minutes to discuss this. So first, let's just discuss the fact that Age of Empires' events are stacked this year. Oh, my goodness. Head to head, they're already bringing it into us. We have one face in front of us. 50-50, basically. Wow. But JIF, he's been struggling against Voldemort. Oh, against Valdy.
That's actually a very, very interesting setup that you're seeing over here. It's 2-2, 6-5. And, you know, one of those things where you look at the series count 2-2, it's kind of well mixed, but oftentimes I prefer to look at the game count because so many times you just see, oh, this person won, say, 7 out of 8 series against another. But how close were those series? I think that's a factor to consider. In this case, both the series and the games are evenly matched. Makes you think that we could be in for a 5-game series here.
Oh, I would be so blessed with the 5-game series because, of course, that head-to-head does not include the JIF that almost took down Louis. And I think that's the thing we have to remember. This man is not the same man who played against Valdy back in those qualifiers. And even like KPMM Season 2, what year is this? So, with these two against each other, I think the underdog after this recent performance is definitely Valdy. He's gonna need to give it his all. And looking at the bans and such, I want us to take a quick look to just see Malians still being a prior ban, China getting banned from JIF music. So Valdy is still prioritizing China as one of those strongest civilizations. And after watching those games, I would too. But yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those matchups where Valdy has been around for a long time and he has always been lingering on that, you know, just at the edge of qualifying for the main event, being able to challenge the big names. Whereas JIF is just a brand new name who absolutely kicked in the door and said, hey, I'm here to compete. It's going to be interesting to see how, or if he can take out Valdy here. Just as a fun little touch here, if he gets into the main event, he's guaranteed at the very least $200 without even having to play a set, frankly. And of course, he could earn a lot more if he starts winning games. His total career earnings is $261. So simply winning this one set is going to practically double his career earnings in terms of competitive AoE4.
That's pretty impressive to think about. To say like one tournament could already turn that for me. And I think for a lot of pro players, we have to ask ourselves, is this enough to sustain them? What is enough to sustain them? So actually, guys, this is a call to action. If you are in the chat and you're enjoying these types of tournaments, remember to support your channels that are doing it. Like EGC, just if you have a Prime, put it in. Make sure that you make these events a little bit easier for us to host, because if you support these channels that run the events, they make these events happen for players. And then we keep the pro scene fresh and spicy like they've been recently. You guys saw Homestead Cup. It was close. Anyone could have won that. And now we see JIF. JIF looks crazy. I'm so excited to see this man's future over the next few weeks. And with all these events that are stacked over the next year, yes, I need more of JIF. And also because he's from the Isle of Man. And you said that's really cool. So I'm going to assume it is. And I think there's like a MotoGP or an F1 event there. So we support the Isle of Man.
And I just have to touch on the format here real quick. When it comes to Elite Classic, you actually get a prize for every single game you win. And you do have a round-robin format. So this is not one of those tournaments where you qualify, you get matched up against Marine Lord, Beastie, or one of the other elite players, and you get knocked out round 1. Every single game that you play matters, and you're going to play against a myriad of opponents. You have a decent chance to build up a decent prize pool for yourself, but it looks like for that, first we have to settle this series. Valdy in the color yellow, facing off against JIF in the color red. We kick things off on Hill and Dale in a Rus versus French matchup, as old school as it gets.
I am so excited. Hill and Dale, check. Rus, check. French, check. Are we going to see an absolute destruction of knights? I'd hope, check. But Hillendale is such a cool map. It's such an old school map, and I know a lot of players hate Hillendale. And if you hate Hillendale, say it in the Twitch chat so I can perma-ban you, and then we can move on with our lives. Hillendale is just such a fun map to see at this top level, because this is where it's either a really campy map and amounts to very long games, or it's something that just shows us pure outplay in all of this. Because this used to be the one place we always saw trade. Neither of these civs are... Oh, actually, see, this is where I want to see trade, but I know it's not possible. Ah, come on, man. Bring trade back. Don't we miss trade?
It's funny you say that. Funny you say all these things about, how classic this map is, because indeed, this was one of the launch maps of Age of Empires 4, and that's one of the things that we wanted to bring back with Elite Classic 4 and also 5. It has always been a tournament that kind of tries to recreate some of those original moments, bring on maps that have been around for years, and Hillendale has certainly been one of those.
And with these civilizations as well, you have two civs that always like to go for a good old little bit of a pro scout. But now in this scenario, this is not something that you need to do anymore. Now with Valdy, he's going for that Dark Age wheelbarrow. Did he get survival techniques as well? Can we have a quick look? Because it would make sense. This man, he's a double upgrade boy. This is where the Chamber of Commerce sounds like a spicy idea. Just pop out those two free traders. But of course, it's just Whammon and her big dreams. And of course, Valdy will not bless us with that, I'm sure. I'm hoping to curse it, by the way. That's why I'm talking about it still.
I don't think it works that way. You can curse game crashes. You certainly cannot curse certain strategies being employed.
School of Cavalry coming out, Valdemar keeping it normal. This is an important game. He wants to qualify. All hope is gone, Lidicor.
Either way, School of Cavalry opening here, and this is where we have to touch on the fact that unlike in many other maps, on Hillendale you only have one gold mine that you start with. You live and die with that gold mine. If it gets denied, very difficult to get access to any other source of gold. If it runs out and you do not have map control, ditto. So you have to be extremely cautious about this when you're playing the French, because you're going to be a very gold-heavy composition with your knights.
Now, with all of these boys on stone, though, we're getting a little bit of a different playstyle. See, this is an old-school playstyle, Lidicor. The fact that we're getting a 2TC Rus, this takes us back to the golden old days. And now I just need to see Valdy killing those deer in unfortunate spots to block that second TC. Now, that scout is getting a little bit too close to death, but in the end, it does look like that TC will have a safe spot to land and still grab a bunch of deer in it as well.
Rus 2TC build, it's been a while since we've seen that, I'm not gonna lie. I wonder... 2TC feels a little dangerous on this map, though, because really, you have so little resources on your hill that if you just concentrate all your economy there in the early portions of the game, you're going to run out, and if you don't have map control, it's just almost a game over situation. In fact, that's part of the reason why this map is very, very deceiving. It makes you feel like, oh shoot, I can just turtle up, concentrate all my economy on that hill, and that's it. But the resources do run out very quickly.
Yeah, the gold is usually that big question mark that we have. But for Rus, they don't have the same level of stress about that gold as we usually see. Now, of course, with JIF being Rus, he's going to have a decent enough time with that, but he needs to place that second TC first. And this is usually how you keep up with a civilization like the French, if you want to outscale them, because Rus doesn't have an answer to dealing damage under that first TC at all. And now the second knight coming out, but we see most of the villagers being pulled from gold already, so this is not going to be a heavy knight situation at all. This is already going to translate into that second TC for Valdy, and it's going to be 2 TC against one another, where French comes out on top yet again.
It's a very, very condensed base over here for JIF. One thing is sure, it's going to be extremely difficult for Valdy to attack into this one, which makes me feel like he might want to just rush towards Castle Age and simply say, hey, you know, I know it's 2 TCs on both sides, but at the end of the day, I'm the French player. I'm the one that's supposed to do something with my knights. If I cannot do anything with my knights, might as well try to get to Castle Age, use 1 or 2 knights to secure the map control and grab the relics.
And the great thing for him is, because he's playing against Rus, he'd be able to send his villagers out onto the external tier without blinking. He's not going to be in any danger of doing anything like that. But we do see that JIF is going for the wood. And 13 on wood, it tells you something very clear. I don't get to go castle without being careful. And Valdy says, careful is not a concern of mine right now. I get to do this. So 12 on gold and 13 on food, he is telling us a very, very clear story. The problem is just, it feels like if he goes for castle here, he's not going to have a lot of food left.
Yeah, Valdy is looking for a target with that 1 knight, and JIF actually has to send a villager all around to the north. There was a villager building this wall. He had to delete a section of the wall to save the villager, and then now that villager is looping all around, yikes, almost losing the scout is Valdy, and, you know, this villager could actually be a target here. The fact that the wall is not complete actually means that it's easy to take out, and Valdy, as he should, if you have the map control, take it. He's going to take the boar now.
And getting the boar is answering that question that I had earlier. What is the food situation going to be like? But the boar answers that food situation pretty clearly. And JIF going for his own knight, it's not going to be the same as having your double French knight. It feels like JIF is still going to stay in feudal for a while, because we still see 13 on wood. This man is pretty okay staying where he is, and Valdy, he's going to be in a decent spot for himself going into this. Now, with that boar and the walls coming up, he's making sure that this is a safe enough area even when the units from JIF start coming. So those 2 tiny walls could save him a lot of villagers.
It's not just the tiny walls, I feel. I think it is the potential of expanding this to the corner and just locking down that large gold deposit, the hunt to the north, the wood lines, the stone, the trading post. I kind of like the fact that, again, if you're given all that map control, use it. Secure extra bits of the map for yourself. And if you look at Valdy, he is rushing Castle Age here. He also wants the relics. I feel like between these 2 players, I think Valdy's approach is something that has a higher upside right now.
Valdy is being very mindful, and I like that. I like the way you described it as well. He's being mindful about this. Ooh, a villager going down. But, of course, this is just a little French villager. He's got that bit of an edge right now. But JIF, he realizes this is something that might be on the cards, and he's going for his own age up pretty soon. Guildhall, weapon of choice, makes a lot of sense. We do not have a bunch of knights ready to roll. And on a map like this, you know there's a huge chance that this thing will go to the late game. So you have to make sure that your units are upgraded accordingly.
First knight out for JIF, though, and he does intercept this age up over here. Kind of an annoying detail. Looking for a villager snipe. He's not going to get it, though. Knight does take a big beating, and that's going to kind of close the door on this aggression.
And that's the
Guildhall is on the
only
way, and he knows that the Guildhall is on the way. I think that's a key piece of information for him.
And he also knows it's not being heavily rushed up. He knows this is not a castle that he's desperate to get. So high trade-outs for him with 12, it's something he wants a little bit quicker just to match this up and be able to start making a play for maybe the relics. I say that, and I look at the amount of wood he's got in the bank, the fact that he already has 2 farms. This man is not thinking about this anytime soon. This is actually a pretty rough position for Rus to already be in, to pull onto the farms, and this could just be to extend the lifetime of the deer at the back of his base. But this is still a pretty expensive investment when there are relics on the map that you're going to need to play for.
Yeah, that high trade house, though, how high is that going to be? The amount of trees
mid-trade.
that's going to be in that range is negligible.
That's a mid one. Mm-hmm.
That's more like a low trade house. Let's say that out loud.
Ooh, I do see the. If only that heal was placed a little bit differently, but yes, we can see there were some juicy spots. But of course, deer spawns are deer spawns, so food is food. And we do see the spearman upgrade coming in first. Now, JIF doesn't have the food income to pump out a ton of units, and he knows he's up against French. He needs to find a little bit of this, but goes for the relics quickly, and Valdy thinking exactly the same.
It's going to be a race towards the relics if you take a look, and that is where that one wall that's coming up to the north is coming in clutch for Valdy. He doesn't need to worry about that relic right now. If the walls are completed, he can just wait all the way to the end to pick that up. There's one in his corner. Towards the midfield, though, it looks like we might have a bit of an advantage for JIF. Part of the reason why is because he's going to have the warrior monks that are just naturally quicker when it comes to getting to those relics.
And you say warrior monks with an S. The thing is just those things are so expensive. It takes so long to get the number out you need. And sure, the second one is coming out now, but it still feels like a pretty heavy investment, especially when the French knights are already on the field. I love this. And we already see some orbs in the mix, but a little bit of each. We have an archer, we have an orb, we have a horseman. Valdy is getting us lots of rocks and papers to handle what JIF might have on offer. And with the spearman numbers increasing, JIF is definitely playing into that. Because orbs, they don't do too badly against spears, as we usually see with crossbows.
Yeah, orbs, in many ways, are one of the best and most versatile units in the game. They do have the Pavisa deployed later, but more importantly, they obviously have the bonus against heavy units, but they have a decent base DPS against any kind of a unit, and they are reasonably affordable, so many times you end up seeing the French just playing 60, 70 orbs, and simply playing a very cost-efficient composition, rather than trying to be diverse or counter every single unit that comes their way.
And he yoinks that relic on the side of Valdy. And this makes sense. Like you said, they're faster and just in the end going to be a little bit better there. But now Valdy is the one moving out for the gold. But he moves out on both sides. Oof, and the scout doesn't get to sneak on in. But going out on both sides is very unexpected. I don't feel like JIF is going to respond to that too quickly because he's going to assume that the villagers are going to be on the safe gold. So why would your opponent even think about going on a sneaky gold like that?
Yeah, it's always a tricky thing, because if you sneak out, it might work out perfectly, but at the same time, eventually it gets sniffed out, and when that happens, you could be in trouble. I love the walls for Valdy, though. He's playing Hill and Dale, as many players would probably do it, in a very, very static and slow fashion. And once he has the whole part of the map walled off, it makes me wonder if he's going to start going for an early trade. It would be a corner-to-corner trade with French. That is certainly an appealing option if you have a nice and secure front line.
Usually, in the late game, you would expect this pretty quickly, but this man, I feel like Voldemort is more of a meta player. We have a lot of people that are quite creative, and Voldemort, I feel like he's one of those who he plays it safe when he needs to. Ooh, but look at Jeff. Jeff doesn't play it safe. He's like, I'm willing to sacrifice this knight. This thing's going down. And he gets one. And surely enough, ooh, it does look like JIF is the one who moves out, and he catches a few of these units out, and 3 villagers total have gone down on the side of Valdy. Luckily, he's French. Ooh, 4, and it doesn't hurt too much.
A bit of a pushback here on the right side. The Arbaletrier do not have insane numbers. They also have to focus down the knights. A couple of knights fall, but the horsemen do not engage, so some casualties on the side of Valdy over here. Decides to fight now. There's a knight pursuing the villagers over here. Nice little surround, though, here by Valdy. Charges in with the knights, and this is going to be a beautiful cleanup.
Now, it's a cleanup, but it feels like a pretty expensive one at that, too. But in the end, definitely a decent enough trade here for Valdy. He got his value, and this is a tough spot. He gets spotted, has to cancel, and moves back pretty quickly. That gold is not getting secured with a keep today.
Did he lose the gold? Did he replace the keep? Because he's very low on stone. I hope he didn't lose it. Okay, it's replaced elsewhere. I was pretty sure that was going to be the case because I did not see a torch being thrown, but every once in a while you see those cases where you start building a keep, it gets immediately destroyed, and you lose your stone. That would have been catastrophic for Valdy.
And Valdy now is putting himself in a decent spot for that late game. We've seen French late game in a position like this. It feels good. When you have all your keeps up, when you're starting to get control of the map, you have your guild hall pumping, and it just feels like there is nothing that can stop the French. But with this being said, JIF is making sure that he's putting the numbers down of units, and this is a steady amount that is now being pushed on out. So the question is, where does he attack? Because now there's a keep on the one side, there's a keep at the front of the base. Where do you actually hit that hurts your opponent?
That's a tricky question, and that's, I think, kind of an accomplishment in a way from Valdy. He secured the flanks really well, and he's playing a very defensive game. He's actually getting close to dropping another castle, so it's going to be very difficult for JIF to do anything about this. Logic would dictate that you just go on the sacred sites and start forcing out the timer, which is exactly what he's doing right now. But holding all 3 sacred sites for 10 minutes on this map is very, very difficult. This is a bad fight for Valdy, though. Completely loses track of all these crossbows and gets absolutely mauled here in the middle of the map.
And pulls back the moment there's only one left. This was just pure work of overwhelming pings on more than one side. And this is how difficult it can be to keep the game under control. It felt so good for Valdy here. It felt like he had all of it. And the moment he looked away, those ops going down may have just cost him the game, right here and right now.
Yeah, exactly, because this is the only side where you don't really have a keep. There is one a little further to the north, but if, for example, JIF just swings to the left here, he can kind of bypass that. He's taking out houses here to kind of make Valdy pop cap. It's not there just yet, but he could be if he destroys a couple more houses. And in the meantime, JIF is just kind of concentrating all his forces towards the middle. One of the sacred sites being decapped. Or, well, capped again. And what is Valdy doing all the way to the south? I was wondering what that group of units are. He's looking to poke around. He is going to hit a couple of berry villagers down south here. There is a tower to protect them, but the cavalry will body block them, and this time it's JIF who's slow to react.
Now, even with this pickup, it's not just about killing the villagers. It's about getting your opponent to back off at the front of your base. Oh, and they're going to try to build this, but never mind. They know they're dead.
Yikes.
And great pickup from Valdy, and also slows down that push that is imminent at the front. JIF, though, he doesn't really look like he's deterred whatsoever. He has all the sacred sites, and like you said, it's not something that is most likely going to be the win condition here, but it's still putting that pressure down on your opponent to want to shut this down. And yet another bunch of villagers under duress right now.
Yeah, Valdy committed a lot of villagers to mining stone, so that he gets the keeps up, and then he gets the French discount from the keeps. The problem is that while mining stone, he wasn't collecting other resources, so the military buildup was fairly slow otherwise, and now he's outnumbered 2-1, has to rush up a stone wall like there is no tomorrow, but it does get body blocked, and this is just going to be so many more villagers getting caught in the crossfire. It's going to be a cleanup, but when you have however many villagers here getting idled out, that is 44 villagers, about a third of Valdy's eco totally idle, and there's a second wave coming behind this.
He needs to get that wall up, he knows it, but it just feels like they're all poking through in the villager. At this point, there's no way. And they do get the cancel on this. Oh, disgusting. And the horsemen now under the keeps. This is not Imperial French where you get to sit back and let the TCs do the work and be comfortable under your keeps. It will be soon enough, and it secures a ton of resources, but the problem is there are other things you need to worry about other than getting your Red Palace up. You've got no units, you've got JIF music in your face, and you have a little bit of a destruction in front of you.
Yeah, Valdy has been playing the long game here with the multiple castles rushing up to Imperial here, but he needs to find a way to survive here. Granted, this is not a great fight for JIF. It's not his full force. He's fighting under a TC and a castle, and he does get repelled. There is also a group of units coming in from the south here. He's putting on a lot of pressure on his opponent. If Valdy can make it into Imperial, though, anything could still happen.
Now, with this Red Palace coming up, that TC is going to start firing back, but ooh, the obs, The Orbs are doing their work eventually, with him now having to back off, the Red Palace coming in, the Horsemen will get cleaned up, and honestly, it could have been worse. He only lost 13 villagers total this game, and that means only 5 villagers have gone down since this whole situation started. And sure, the crossbows are going to be able to clean up here, the spears are doing some good work, the horses trying as well, but JIF is going to be able to go to Imperial pretty soon too. Voldemort, he does have control of the map though.
Yeah, I was going to point out the same thing that you did. This aggression was scary. There were at times 40 villagers idled out, but when it's all said and done, it's a total of 13 villagers lost, a convenient villager lead for Valdy. He also has a heavy discount on the units that he's making because of the French. And again, when it's all said and done, he's up in Imperial with a functional economy, and he did clean up most of JIF's forces. At times, JIF had 80 to 90 units. Now he's down to just 30, trying to get up to Imperial. He's trying to tower that gold mine, that's not going to happen. And that's going to be the Spasskaya Tower having a face-off against the Red Palace. Perhaps a little bit more conservative replacement is warranted. He cancelled it and now he's rethinking it. Yeah,
And
he's totally shifting it to the north.
Now, this is a wonderful choice by him. He gets himself 2 golds there and doesn't get himself killed instantly by the Red Palace. That is great thinking here by JIF Music. And those trebuchets are still a pretty heavy thing that he needs to find an answer to. The thing is, all those units he just threw away doesn't make this too easy for him to stay in that controlling position he was. I feel like if JIF was a little bit more conservative about his push and try to get the damage elsewhere, he may have gotten out ahead quite a bit more. But with that being said, he's still the one with the trebuchets, and it doesn't feel like Valdy has something he can put in the face too quickly, because you still have to get on top of them. And the crossbow numbers from JIF is scary.
Yeah, I was going to say that, the next logical step here for JIF is indeed the trebuchet play. He's taking out a lot of the production buildings, by the way. And when you look at the French, you want to build your production buildings close to the castles. That kind of makes you vulnerable to a situation like this. Every single production building clustered up, and your production is actively being taken out by those trebuchets. He's looking to snipe those out. That's quite a lot of spears moving out here, but you do have a keep, you do have the crossbows right here. Trebuchet is trying to pull back here. That's a big force from Valdy, though, and Valdy has the imp upgrades. Not so much for JIF. He's still just halfway there for the Imperial Age upgrade.
Now, this is actually a pretty good move here. We see that tower, or that keep, is not really doing the work it needed to. Trebuchets need to pull back, and they're just getting completely obliterated. Orbs not even caring. Everyone's under the keep without a care in the world. It is just an absolute destruction here, and JIF's army numbers are not all there. Valdy, he cleaned up what he needed to clean, and it doesn't look like JIF has anything in the bank to actually replace this. He's trying to get that bombard out too, and still, he's just staying on the keep without a worry in the world. This might be a bit of an overextension if he keeps this up, but he does pull back, and the bombard emplacement is only going to come in now, so he should not be able to lose too many when that hit comes.
Yeah, JIF he was trying to play crossbows here in late castle, going to elite, but crossbows will never really beat Arbs, especially when you also consider the cost efficiency factor, which is just orders of magnitude better for the French. It's very clear that Valdy's working towards securing the south with the Red Palace, multiple keeps, and JIF is trying to secure the northern side. He's trying to get some walls up there, but still, army numbers not looking great here for JIF right now. He is making a switch into horsemen, though, and Valdy only has 8 spears to work with.
JIF is trying his best to hold this, and the thing is, he will be able to. And with those horsemen he's got, he's going to be able to do quite a bit against the Orbs. But like you said, the Orbs, they're a pretty good unit. Oh.
That's a problem. That's a major problem for Valdy, and he's not even noticing it. There's just so much going on across the map. Spasskaya Tower is just going to absolutely maul all those villagers. That's going to be at least a dozen down.
And quickly, that equalizes the villager count. Exactly what JIF needed to stay in the game. And now JIF is the one with the food lead, and Valdy is nowhere near reaching those numbers. Now, JIF, he is splitting up his units, so he does need to be careful with this. But it does feel okay for him. There's still a bit of breathing room here for JIF, even though French is very scary. This is not a Rus where you have your discounted siege units. This is just a Rus with a Spaskaya tower in the middle. And
look
a lot
at all
of
the
kills.
villager kills. We're down by 17 villagers here for Valdy. He lost 39 villagers in this game combined, most of that on that gold mine. He now needs to make up for it. He's trying to take out the castle in the middle. JIF has been the aggressor for quite some time. He's been the one hitting the opponent's eco, whereas Valdy is just trying to kind of push a spearhead through the middle here.
And I feel like Valdy is doing well enough with those cannons, but the problem is just it's a bit of a stalemate. Valdy does have control of the map still, and we can see that with all the keeps everywhere. But it doesn't feel like it's a permanent control. This is a control that he has because JIF hasn't moved his bombards there. And of course, the moment he does, this is where he loses a bit of that middle power he has. So right now, Tithe Bonds also coming in. We're seeing that late game where people are starting to get every single upgrade they need. And JIF is the one with a lot of gold in the bank here because he doesn't have that heavy, intensive army that requires as much gold at the moment. But the cannon numbers, they are in the favor of Valdy. And I feel like this could be something that makes a difference.
We're getting to the stage where population efficiency will become a factor, and both of these civilizations are incredibly good late-game civs. The French, of course, have the elite knights. If you have a lot of resources in post-imperial, you can just go heavy on the knights. They have the very cost-efficient arbaletier. And on the other side, Rus Streltsy mostly, but we're seeing crossbows right here. Looks like JIF is going to have to fight this one to try and keep the castle alive. That's not going to happen, though. Bombards do take it out, and it's only crossbows against the front line of spears and horsemen. That is not a good setup here for JIF. He needs something that deals with these light units in the front.
And that's just because he was focused on his horsemen on the sides. And this is the problem when you get to this stage of the game. You're focusing your attention on 16 different things, and that's where mistakes are made. And that was that game-defining mistake. The moment he looked away and wanted to get the horsemen on top, the splitting them off is so expensive. And you can see here the horsemen making their way through, but it's under a French TC that is just going to take care of them so quickly. Now only having one bombard in his lineup and not able to replace as many of his units as he'd like.
Some raids coming in here from JIF in the meantime. He's been the one hitting the opponent's eco, but Valdy just has this death ball of arbaletier that we talked about. Full upgrades as well with flaming arrows and a bunch of cannon. And as much as the production of Valdy was on the front towards the late Castle Age stage, and he lost most of that, now that's the case for JIF. He's got a lot of production buildings on the front that will be taken out in the next few minutes.
We have to consider, though, Valdy is struggling in the food department. He's on 800 food per minute, and JIF, he's in a very good spot. Even if he loses these front farms, this man is going to be able to replace his units. He's getting a very scary amount of horsemen. That is, you're getting to that point where the Streltsy that he doesn't have is not going to matter too much. He's just going to deal with the obs. He's going to get on top of the obs, and he's going to be able to take them down if he doesn't suicide his horses like he is right now. But Valdy is not in a position where he can constantly replace all these units.
That's a good point indeed. Valdy's eco is not necessarily super robust in terms of the food income. Having said that, he's doing so much damage here on JIF. He's taking away these front gold mines, forcing the villagers to flee, trying to contest this Spaskaya tower. Here comes the big cavalry push here. It's a lot of idle farms. Where did all those villagers go? Horsemen now coming in here. There is a few spearmen here only for Valdy. He's got 20 spearmen in total, but most of them are not on the screen right now. And that helps a lot for these horsemen to clean this up.
Now, these horses are going to melt, but there's so many more coming, and it does look like these obs did a really good job. But the problem is just the reinforceability of this army, and quickly the horses get on top. They're not able to take down the cannons, but they're trying to. One of them might go down at the cost of many horses, but the crossbows are now the name of the game, getting right on top of them. And JIF, is still producing as much as is needed. Baltimore's food economy has recovered, but it feels like it recovered a little bit late. And these farms that maybe have been idle or still in production, it's starting to show its problematic head. Now, sure, we're going to have 5, 6 bombards. Oh, hello, horses making their way through. They do need to back off for a moment there.
Valdy just pulled food out of the guild hall, though. He's up to 3,500 food. I'm pretty sure that came from the guild hall just a moment ago. He kind of needs that food because, as you said, he's got 1,500 per minute as compared to 3,000 on the other side. His food eco is considerably weaker compared to his opponents. And indeed, he just pulled the resources out and it was set on food. That's a lot of resources for Valdy to work with now. I wonder if it's a production bottleneck, though. He's got a lot of units in queue. It feels like he just doesn't have enough production buildings to continuously spam these out, despite having the resources available.
And now looking at the gold situation, oh yeah, that's not a lot of production buildings for him whatsoever. The front push really did its damage. But now you have to consider JIF needs to find a way to slowly get control of golds. He still has access to some golds, so this is not super urgent, but it is still something he needs to consider. This one already almost mined out. Valdy just snacking on the gold of the map. But it just doesn't feel like the French late game you would expect to see. Royal Bloodlines only coming out now, and it makes sense. He hasn't had a huge cavalry...
Right?
Yep. But he does. Now, the horses finding their way back again, trying to get to that back line of cannons, but he has to be careful. He keeps losing these, but crossbow numbers are scary enough to handle what they have to. Horses do not get any victims, but they are the victims themselves. JIF is just replenishing as much as he can, and it feels like a proper Hill and Dale game that I was raving about earlier. And never mind, Twitch chat, you were right. Hill and Dale, it can become a little bit of a stalemate in the late game. It feels like we've been here an hour, but it's been 32 minutes, and nothing has moved. We might still be here for another 30 minutes, Liticor.
Yeah, this is starting to become one of those super dragged-out Hill and Dale games, and I gotta say, it's also one of the most chaotic ones. Castles all across the map. Some have already been erased, like this one in the middle, but you have a random Spaska Tower to the north, a Red Palace to the south, and if you just look at all those little castle icons on the minimap, this battlefield is incredibly chaotic, and now it is Valdy pushing out. It's mostly a swarm of spearmen, though. It's just a very, very basic composition, if you can even call it that. It just feels like we're getting to the stage where attrition is getting to the players in terms of resources, and they're just spamming out whatever units they can quickly pop out to try and secure the front line.
Oh, JIF not able to replenish the army like he used to, and Valdy going for that spear composition puts him in a good spot of affordability. So he's able to just get more spears and stay up to level with JIF's numbers. But JIF is now switching to Streltsy, and honestly, it's about time. So getting those Streltsy out, they are going to be able to handle most of what Valdy has on offer. But the Spaskaya Tower in a little bit of danger here, no villagers to repair it, and losing this landmark, it loses the access to the gold he may have hoped for. And now all of a sudden, this, he pulls the mercenaries. We see the boys being pulled, and this might just be to get rid of some of these units.
He needs to. There is only one gold mine he controls now. He actually deleted a bunch of villagers. You can see the dead bodies on the wood line. He needs population space for the Streltsy and the Horsemen. He mass deletes the villagers on the wood line because he needs to take this fight to preserve the final gold mine he has access to, that is to the far right.
Oh, and we see that's exactly, this is going to be the fight, and he realizes this. I need to clean up these bombards because the slow push is going to kill him. Quickly, we see that front line of mercenaries making their way through, and the crossbows, or Streltsys, doing the work, melting everything in front of them. Bombards melting like they're made of paper, and these horses are finally getting to do their damage. But honestly, I'm surprised they lasted this long.
The Streltsy did a great job cleaning up the spearmen, and the horsemen were just kind of running around, spearmen fighting on the front line. This is a beautiful cleanup castle coming up on the north for Valdy, though. That does get intercepted. Cannon still rolling back, trying to save themselves. It's just pure chaos all across the map, and I think the villagers here for Valdy will have to flee. He cancelled the castle he initially placed. Villagers fleeing all the way to the north as the horsemen do get cleaned up. And now it looks like JIF is just going to pull back his forces. I feel like the composition is starting to look better and better for JIF, though. The 30 Streltsy supported by Horsemen, it's starting to become a much, much more valuable army than the Spearman Horseman comp of Valdy.
And the problem for Jiff was he was struggling with wood there for a moment as well. He's just producing everything and anything he can. I feel like Valdy, he's trying so hard at just making these composition switches work, but Jiff with the Streltsy has an answer to most of what he's got. The horsemen finally getting their value, and we see the horses going again for that cannon. He knows how important it is to just not get pushed off like this. Streltsy now standing in place, attacking as they love to do. And now Valdy might be in a bit more danger as this push is starting to get a little bit too close to home. We see the villagers trying to get onto that gold as well. But Jiff, he doesn't have any villagers on gold. He doesn't have access to this anymore. He does slowly gain control back there on the south. But he's doing this without the help of normal gold. He's just doing this with the help of relics at this point and those hunting cabins.
Valdy's composition is very concerning. He's got mostly just spears that the Streltsy will be more than happy about, and then a couple of supporting horsemen. That's basically all that he has. He still has a very nice and tucked away economy in the left-hand corner though, and a lot of gold available, so certainly room for recovery. But as things stand, his composition is vastly inferior to Jiff's. And do keep in mind, in late Imperial you have a fifth resource, it's population. You can only have 200 units, so if you have more valuable units taking up those population spaces, that can give you a very nice edge.
Now, looking at this push, we're definitely nearing the point where Valdy realizes this. I don't have a lot of these left in me. He had access to... Oh my goodness, Jiff, we're going deep. Never mind, Valdy is very willing to take this fight as we see the cannons just firing away. Streltsy standing in place right under this keep. Probably the most expensive fight of his life, but the surround is there and Valdy can clean up everything.
The patience pays off, and the front line wasn't there for Jiff. He has 17 horsemen, but they weren't here to support the Streltsy. This fight would have been so much more different if there were 17, 18 horsemen screening the enemies. And that is a crucial loss here for Jiff. All the Streltsy going down. He's down to one Streltsy, and he's replacing them with crossbows, not just replacement Streltsy.
That's what I'm wondering. Is this on purpose? Does he have a plan here to just make horses? Or is this just like, oh, I may have overstepped, because that's a lot of horses in the queue. The thing is, if he did, it felt a little obvious. It felt a little obvious we don't know if that was, hey, I accidentally forgot my army, or I really want this to die so I can switch. And honestly, with the amount of units we see here from the horsemen, I don't think this is going to be the play he needed, because now there's a lot of spears in the mix and the cannon's still firing away, but the horsemen are doing work. Problem is just that front line of spears is doing the same.
He's trying to push this castle to the south of this position with some battering rams, but he keeps getting denied. And now it's just a swarm of horsemen, spearmen as well, and some hand cannoneers as well for Valdy. You know, with that many horsemen for Valdy and no Streltsy to take them out, they just absolutely shred all the cavalry front line that Jiff has.
Oh, and we can see he cannot afford. Streltsy is just going for more crossbows, but the horseman numbers are doing work here. And now another keep from Valdy at the front. Valdy is the one pushing out. He's realized this was his moment. That push into my keep was everything I needed. And look at those hand cannoneers just absolutely destroying everything in front of them. Valdy, he's got 33 spears, 19 horsemen still in queue. This man is ready to replenish. His food economy has recovered. He has recovered. His gold hasn't, though, so gotta keep an eye on that.
That gold is becoming a problem. It's actually curious that he's low on gold, given that he has a lot of gold mines available to the south. These battering rams are taking out this isolated castle, though, as Valdy gives up that position. Now, he's the one who's fighting into a static defensive position, and the choke point. I don't know about this fight for Valdy, but he seems to have the numbers advantage. Militia now being popped out, though, trying to help out. The Kremlin is under fire from the cannon. It's going to be a costly fight no matter what. Looks like Valdy is getting what he wants out of this. It's a complete army wipe on both sides, and I think he's going to be happy with that.
And now Streltsy is again queued up. He realizes, hey, maybe the switch was not it, but did Voldemort overextend here? And is this the moment that he gets cleaned up yet again? Luckily, they do have a keep to fall back on under, so the horses are not going to be able to get their value as they did before. And now JIF is slowly trying to take back some of the space. Hasn't repaired that Sparskaya. Well, it makes sense when you're up against all those cannons. But again, now he's pushing into the keeps, and I feel like we've seen this game before.
It's only militia, though. Look at that. Most of that force is actually militia. That's why Valdy is pulling back. He's just waiting for them to expire. Looks like he is going to take the fight, though. It's double castles shooting at this one. Cannons, hand cannoneers from the front. You feel like this wasn't a real power spike for JIF. This was more like a temporary buff with the militias. It's kind of fading away, and now Valdy is just looking for fight after fight, trying to grind down his opponent. And look at JIF. He's out of wood. Totally out of wood. It's actually very funny that we're talking about this, because the players are going for compositions that are so wood heavy with the horsemen, the spearmen, the cannons, that wood actually just ran out.
And the problem with this wood-heavy composition, Valdy will be able to sustain it eventually if he goes into a trade. I say that, but there's no way this man can trade to. The man trading is the Rus, and I don't think that was expected by anyone. JIF doesn't want to have any gold struggles, 1.5k per minute. He's going to be able to replenish what he needs, but now going into a heavy knight composition, I'm excited for. I need to see this a little bit more. Ooh, and finally, Randys are joining the fight. We know how those guys melt under ranged, but it feels like ranged is not on the menu here for JIF. He does have his crossbows, but they have not been doing too well against this force.
It's becoming a very interesting game where the only remaining gold mines will soon be the ones that are so contested in the middle that they are totally inaccessible. And that could be a window for JIF, just leveraging the trade and cutting the opponent off of gold. For the time being, he's pushing out, and he now has 16 Streltsy to work with, supported by Spearmen, slowly swinging this battle back in his favor. On the other side, it's mostly Spears and Horsemen, so Spearmen Streltsy will do fairly well against them. Not a lot of siege to back this up with, though, so I don't know how much he can push past these castles.
Now he keeps walking into these with these very squishy units that he cannot continue replacing. But the knight switch, I'm a little concerned about with this because of the heavy amount I was going to say about the orbs and the composition, but I only realize now the orbs are only in process of being replaced, but the spearman numbers are still quite scary. JIF, he believes in the crossbow lifestyle, and that's exactly what he's got. Ooh, the Randy at the front taking care of a lot, but it looks like he's focus-fired pretty quickly. And yet again, another fight in the middle with the keep trying to support this. And the horsemen really doing some good work in this mix.
Again, JIF's army is not here in its entirety, and that's part of the reason why he's getting pushed back. The front line kind of disappears. He's just going to have to fall back for the time being, but I don't think that Valdy has enough momentum to push this, and this is turning into a slugfest here in the middle. Every inch of ground is being fought for as we speak.
Guys, I have to apologize. I cursed this game 15 minutes ago when I said this could be the game 30 minutes from now. And just like the crashes, I take full responsibility of what is happening here. And even though there's two keeps firing away, we see a trebuchet coming, guys. We might get a little bit of ground coverage. This is a pretty tough one to face.
Trading is up here for JIF, and again, if you look at the remaining gold mines, you could easily say, hey, if you're Valdy, there is so much more gold left to work with. You don't need trade. But the reality is that all of these gold mines are in the middle of a battlefield. There's also another thing I want to look at real quick, and that's an awkward thing. We have 2 landmarks lost for Valdy. And the third landmark is going to be a red palace in the middle of the map. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye out on. If he ends up losing this, it suddenly becomes a game of having to be very careful with the landmarks. Oh, okay.
So
production is telling me it's the other way around. It's JIF who lost the landmarks. In that case, it's even more concerning in a way, because his remaining landmarks are very clustered around the initial town center.
now we do see a little bit of maybe a movement here as we have another keep going down. pretty expensive at this point. Oh my goodness. Finally, Valdy getting some villager kills.
Yikes.
The man is out for blood. And no more stone will come in from Mr. JIF.
JIF is trying to stonewall off that market. That is how much he wants to deny that trade. And at the same time, he's pushing these gold mines, trying to take it away from Valdy. Valdy is down to just 500 gold per minute. But the Red Palace is going to make it very, very difficult to push into this position.
That Red Palace has been the bane of his existence, and he hasn't respected it enough to make more trebuchets, though. See, I'm a little bit surprised by how stubborn these players have been with not getting the siege to take down the keeps instead of just fighting right into the keeps. And this could just be the pure amount of units that the other one has, and them not wanting to invest anything in that. But now again, we have our Red Palace that's going to start firing at these horses, and quickly, this might just turn into the other favor. Valdy is the one with 6,000 food in the bank. I wonder what the guild hall is currently gathering. Still food. Oh, that's why he has 6,000 food.
Yeah, I think this is where you start pivoting into gold with the guild hall, though. Because now you have a very safe and consistent food eco in the left corner that's very, very difficult to attack and disrupt. But gold is becoming a concern for Valdy. These gold mines are continuously contested, and he doesn't yet have trade to work with. So I think it's a good time to switch to guild hall. Another approach here from JIF.
Oh,
He could
he's
use
so
this
desperate.
wall as a little bit of a screen here. Just go behind it and fire away from the other side.
He's desperate to break that cannon wall, but the spears are just in such a good position every single time. And I'm surprised he hasn't gone to repair the Sparskaya Tower, but looking at the wood situation, it makes sense. You do not want to waste a drop of wood when your army composition is horsemen. And right now, again, switching to knights. This man is not letting up. He's just switching back and forth until he finds something that works. He's beating against the stone wall, and he's finding a way to break it. It feels so, so tough. Valdy has enough resources to replenish this army, though. So even if he loses this, We'll get another round, Twitch chat. Don't worry. You guys are probably very excited. We'll see more of this.
It's becoming one of those games where wood is so low that it can easily become a very heavy stalemate. Because every single siege weapon you want to make is incredibly expensive when wood is so difficult to access. And we're getting there. It's 300 wood per minute for JIF, 800 for Valdy. And we're also getting to the stage where if you don't have any wood, all you can do is go food and gold. So you're going to start seeing knights, you're going to start seeing hand cannoneers or streltsy. That's exactly the direction that we're heading towards.
My big question is, where's that trebuchet and what is it doing? Is it working? Or is it a
Probably
basic...
not.
That trebuchet needs to do some work, ladies and gentlemen. That trebuchet, we needed to get some action done. Oh, you can see there's nothing that is breaking any structure. It is just a bunch of villages and units being thrown at each other non-stop.
And look at JIF being sneaky. Valdy is not paying attention to the north, so he snuck a couple of villagers in there to just try and finish those walls. There are a couple of spearmen here harassing, but this is the kind of micro game in the big macro game here, trying to wall off the market.
He's A-moved. And he took the bait. Valdy is taking the bait. The spears are all chasing that one villager. The sacrificial vil. Disgusting.
Still going to take forever to finish those stone walls.
Now, it does look like a cannon is... Oh, a bombard is finally invested into. JIF says, maybe if I get siege again, we can push. But it's just a maybe. He's not fully convinced. And with this... The spear's in the mix. He's trying to get to those numbers again. The problem is just the orbs are supposed to handle that pretty well. I see we're going back to hand cannoneers. It's just like they are trying to out-switch each other constantly, and we'll see whose rock, paper, scissors ends up being stronger every time.
It would certainly help for JIF if he had chemistry before. It's a tech that just now comes in. Having played with so many Streltsy across the game, that would have been super helpful, but I gotta agree with you. Right now it's a poke and prod game, and they're just trying to see if anything works, because the trenches are set. Static defenses are up, and Siege weapons are difficult to come by. Valdy has 6 cannons, but if he takes a bad fight and loses them, replenishing that is just gonna be so painful. So we're kind of in this stalemate stage where players are just trying to find a window to strike, not really being able to do so far.
Problem here is we can just see that single trebuchet, it's doing its work, but Valdy is the one making that switch. Not completely. He's gotten a mangonel, he's gotten the mangonel upgrade. Love that for him. But now getting a few extra mangonels in the mix, maybe this is the answer he was looking for, hoping that his opponent oversteps and succumbs to those big rocks flying at them. But now JIF is the one who's got his army all the way at the north, and Valdy is feeling ready to push in.
Now, that's a lot of cannons, and remember, wood is difficult to come by. If you lose... Oh, it's a landmark snipe. He's going for the landmarks. He's taken out some of them already. All of them are clustered up. The Spasskaya is gone to the north. There is the Kremlin. You take the TC, and all you need is one more landmark. Where is it at? All that you need is the High Trade House to the far right. It's now or never for JIF. If he doesn't stop this, he loses the game right here, right now. I think Valdy's looking for the landmark. He cannot find it just yet.
Oh, he knows. He knows where it needs to be. He sees it. It has been spotted, Twitch chat. He is going in. He's zoned in. JIF realizes, quickly tries to repair, but the villagers, the boys are pulled, and Valdemar just finally trying to get...
He has the Spasskaya tower repaired to the north. That's the only way, or does he? The UI is confusing us a little. I would love to see a replay of that. Because...
No!
I'm at the loss of words. So here's the thing.
I'm like...
If you look at the UI, it was 3 out of 4, which makes you wonder if the Spasskaya tower was repaired. If it wasn't, the game would have been automatically over the moment the High Trade House goes down. That was not the case, which makes me think that the Spasskaya tower was repaired, and that this was simply a GG because the base was getting absolutely rolled.
Lidicor, it was the main TC that he had to snipe. The Spasskaya was still down, but the main TC was the final landmark he needed to snipe.
Oh, that's so awkward.
So... It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Voldemort did a decent job at finally breaking the stalemate, though. That's great.
Boy, it was so chaotic, right? Oh my. One of the most entertaining Hill and Dale games we've ever seen, and it came down to that one landmark snipe. Valdy just said, okay, I'm done. I'm just gonna try to snipe the landmarks, and that's exactly what he did with the bombards. Game number 1 goes to Valdy in a crazy fashion.
And just like that, we finally have our victor of the first one. Now, the fact that Valdy and JIF are already in their next game, I feel like, you know those games that you play sometimes on ranked and you're like, man, I need to go off after this one. That was one of those. But Valdy and JIF, they are ready for the next, and they're going to be doing it on 4 lakes. Now, guys, 4 lakes, we can see loud and clear, no KT allowed. No. What a tuklak. Ooh, almost forgot the word there. But Mongols, I'm happy for, because this just means that we are going to see non-stop action. Ooh, do I miss the Mongol days of Imperial rushing? But this is luckily no longer the case. We've had a long game on Hill and Dale. Let's see if Valdy and JIF can give us another one on 4 lakes.
Well, what a start to this series, really. And it's been a long day for the players. Let's not forget, this is a single-day qualifier. They've been playing for a while. And I think one of the key things that we're going to have to look at is attrition and fatigue at this point. It's been a long day, and they just played a very intense, long game. Now they're heading into 4 lakes, and I get the feeling that this is not going to drag that long. Mongols, it's not something that you commonly see on 4 lakes. It's a civilization that can do a lot of early pressure, but especially if the game stalls out, the lack of walls on 4 lakes could be a massive problem for the Mongols.
Now, usually this is the case, especially if you're up against a civilization that has camels, and I feel like Aeobids, they have a pretty good answer to to anyone who looks to have a stalemate here, and we've seen a lot of good plays coming out of that, but of course, Valdy is now going to need to be the aggressor. And he struggled to find that aggressive footing on this map too, because of course, with the French, him going to TC, this was just meant to drag out forever and ever. But one thing I need to mention is I'm really happy to see Valdy holding up against JIF Music after, again, that performance against Louis from JIF. This made it look like Valdy has a very big uphill battle in front of him, and that last game showed us he's on level, if not better, and well prepared for someone like the JIF. So, Mongols, we're probably not going to be seeing any Dark Age shenanigans, because luckily, it's not something you need to shut down too quickly. And of course, the Mongols does pretty well when they do get shut down in feudal. So I'm excited what Voldemort tries to pull out. I just don't see him as the kind of man who is going to invest too much in the early game. Play it safe, take the W, and we see the boys on the wood. I am wondering, do we get now barracks or do we get a dock?
We head into game number 2 here. Valdy versus JIF. JIF down 1 game against Valdy. And as you touched on this is the big question here for Valdy. Mongols, not your most common civilization pick on a map like Four Lakes. One has to wonder if it's an intent to do early aggression or perhaps something else towards mid-game. Villager is heading south, which makes me feel like we're going to have a dock, though. I wonder if there's going to be any follow-up in Dark Age, though. I could see a world where you follow up with a Rax. It would be an interesting choice, but if you are concerned about your opponent's dock, it might be one to consider.
Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind here is that with Mongols going for the Dark Age play, it, of course, puts him in a decent spot, but it's most likely because he doesn't feel threatened by JIF in that early game and already going to try and shut down what comes next. Abits, they... on water maps, when they go for water, they very often don't go for the optimal age-up ones, so it makes a lot of sense that JIF wants to go for something clean. When getting the House of Wisdom here, we can see still having 3 on gold, it doesn't look like he's going to be going for that Culture Wing age-up, which is a little bit cheaper. He hasn't pulled off just yet, not reinvesting the villagers over onto wood. So we'll see what that answer is, but it looks like a pretty clean age up. And then Valdy might have a little bit of aggression to handle pretty early on. He's still on wood, though. Getting enough for those fishing boats. Let's see how many he invests in there. But the age up is coming through, and industry is the answer. Ooh, very nice. Going to be getting that dock up pretty quickly, and I can't wait to see if it's a counter dock or not. Ooh, and it is. Oh, never mind. The villagers are just chopping. I got too excited, Litigor.
Yeah, I feel like you can play this game two ways. Two ways when you're looking at Four Lakes. You can either try to just, do your own thing, build up your own fishing economy, expand towards a second pond, or you can try to be the one that contests the opponent's docks here. Now, JIF did not commit to a dock, which means that he's going to have to do something about the opponent's fishing eco, and if he doesn't, it's going to very quickly scale out of control. So I wonder what his approach is going to be heading into Feudal Age, because he's going to have to do something regarding the enemy docks, or dock right now, soon to be docks. And I love the little touch from Valdy sending a fishing boat along the coastline. He's doing that to make sure that if there is a sneaky dock, he's going to get notified about that. There's a little yellow dot on the far right side of that pond. That's a common strategy to make sure that there is no sneaky docks coming at you without you noticing.
Now, with that industry wing coming out, you actually do have a way of catching up, and that's by double docking and just making fishing boats from there. So this does look to be the case, as we see that second blueprint coming out now, and him just playing it safe, I guess. So Valdy now getting that wheelbarrow before aging up too, feeling pretty confident apparently. The man, he's staying in Dark Age for a little bit longer and just getting the upgrade. This is a pretty brave move, but it also tells us he's not too worried about that initial aggression. He has the eyes on the water. He knows nothing is coming for him just yet. He doesn't need to rush that age up. Now, the Khan is starting to pepper away at those vills, and that is pretty standard at this point. Deer stones with 8. He wants to get it quick, responsibly. Responsibly. But we do see double broadaxe coming out. JIF getting those fishing boats out. No military ship. Ooh, never mind. He's not looking at catching up too quickly. He's going straight for the horses. Or not the horses, the desert raiders. This is going to be disgusting. He's going to be able to shut down quite a bit here, even if it's just the economy trying to get ready to make those military boats.
It certainly feels like JIF is going to try to play towards Castle Age and play a defensive game here. He's expanding towards the northern lake for a second pond. And with the Desert Raiders, he should be able to deal with any early aggression that Valdy is throwing his way. Thinking about, for example, Keshiks, which I think is going to be the approach here.
Now, as we see the first Desert Raider coming out, it looks like he's going straight towards that dock, not wanting to let anyone have any resources for free. As we know, that villager is still out there. Scout going to be fully aware of this, and also we do have the gold that the Desert Raider can quickly switch back on. Now, with the stable coming up from Valdy, he is looking at making some horses to handle these, but you're going to need a few when these numbers start increasing. Still 16 on wood for JIF, so responsibly making boats and responsibly making units, as we see another Desert Raider being queued up. This man, he is coming for some blood. Now, villagers need to move away from gold, and this is going to cut off Valdy's access for quite a while.
Yeah, that's kind of an annoying point over here for Valdy. In these kinds of games where everybody's just doing their own thing with minimal military, even just a split second of idle time is something that technically puts you behind your opponent. Right now, JIF's eco is totally untouched. He's actually on 2 docks. On the other side, you only have 1 dock for Valdy, and he's slowly falling behind in terms of economy. And at the same time, do keep in mind that his gold mine got denied, even for a brief moment. That's going to be annoying, and it's something that slows down his eco expansion.
Now, Valdy very quickly making his way back onto the gold. I love this. The fact that JIF moved away, Valdy is like, okay, boy, I'm going back. I'm getting what I deserve, and goes for what he needs. Now, JIF is getting a lot of these, though. And with the fishing boats, sure, we're going to be ahead. And Valdy is trying to catch up, gets that second dock on the side too. JIF is nowhere near shutting that down. He's just running around and now going to be peppering away at the wood line. Instead, just thinking about peppering away at the wood line.
That's a lot of idle time by 2 units. 15 villagers idled out on a wood is a major concern here for Valdy, if you think about it. Remember, that wood is needed to expand the fishing eco. Slowly going to bring in the Kashik, but they're not necessarily a good answer to Desert Raiders. Once they switch to melee mode, they also debuff those Kashik out there. And so far, we're seeing a very clean game from JIF. I really love how he's again using that early unit control that he has demonstrated against Scarlet Devil. That is not something that we've seen that well in the previous game. In this one, he so far has a very, very clean unit control.
Now, he is trying to do a little bit of damage here. Ooh, one of them stepping a little bit too far forward, but the Kashyyyks, they are still going to be just the front line for the archers to do the real damage, as these guys need to pull back. Now, JIF gets to decide here. Do I keep making these units? And the answer looks like a resounding yes. Or do I actually just go for that Castle Age? Because, again, both of these could make sense. He goes for Blacksmith, though. He's staying in it to win it. And we do see 7 on gold now. And again, with that, he gives himself even more of an answer. Now, Valdy steadily getting himself into a spot where he doesn't have the gold he needs to keep making the Kashyyyks, but he does have the resources to keep making those archers. So he has to make a decision here. The problem is the gold... It's just 1 unit that's constantly idling that gold out, and it's not putting Valdy into a good spot regarding that. Now, I'm wondering if he's going to double down, make another archery range. Ooh, he has to be careful. They do manage to do some damage here on the wood line, but the wood line is going to get scarier and scarier as these villagers need to move further out.
And now we have a switch to light archers, though, as Valdy is diving in with the Kashik. Nice little snipe on 1 villager. A bit of a slow reaction by JIF, loses a second one. Might even lose a third one right here. The Khan and the Kashik do snipe it out. And another batch of villagers will have to run for their lives. A lot of chaos here just because of these few Keshiks. And as I touched on that, archers are coming in, which will be a decent answer to all these Desert Raiders.
Oh, the Khan going down, some of the Keshiks going down. This is starting to get a little bit expensive, especially with that limited gold that he has.
I was gonna say that it started out really well, but the way he disengaged made this a overall suboptimal engagement. Quite a few of the Keshiks fell, and at the same time you do have 12 Desert Raiders now. It is enough to start circling around the enemy base looking for villagers to snipe.
But you see that problem with the wood line, him having to keep moving out, investing in a tower, it's pretty expensive. JIF now getting close to castle, and the problem with having 12 Desert Raiders is you're feigning commitment into feudal. You're not giving your opponent the idea, hey, I'm going to castle here, but it does look like Valdy is reading his mind. He now has 10 on gold himself, and this could just be a situation of, hey, I need gold, and I don't know how long I'm going to have access to it, but the answer is pretty long. He does pick up another villager, but it's pretty even all around, and JIF still a little bit ahead with the villager count, but not enough to tell the tale of victory just yet. Voldemort, he is making some Keshiks now, making sure that that army is still a little bit tanky and showing us he's not ready to go up to castle just yet. He's taking the bait on this aggression that JIF is showing us. He makes a little bit of a turn here. Fishing boat needs to be pushed away from the signs. He will be able to heal up all he wants, but with that, it means your attention is elsewhere and picks up yet another villager kill.
Castle Age on the way soon for Valdy as well. He's also expanding towards that second pond, something that JIF already had for a while. Foot archers are coming in, and that's not something that JIF has a direct answer to. Something that he's going to have to address very shortly, because they're certainly the answer, the response to all these Desert Raiders.
Now, this army composition is starting to look a little bit scary, because all of a sudden we just see 26 to 12, and sure, military wing is coming out, but you still need to have units, and you can see the resources being saved up to get those camel lances instead. The problem is you need time to get them out, and now the Keshiks are going to be the ones who are the problem. Now they are going to be able to snipe out a Keshik, and the archers not being in range just puts him in an okay spot for that. Valdy going for the Kurultai, he is looking and being aggressive, and again, loving this from him. He knows he's got the villager lead, and he's going to... the villager lead, the military lead, he's going to know it now. But the upgrades are coming in, and JIF queuing up those camel lances. The thing is, there's a timing here for JIF, where he should be able to do something with this exact camel lancer coming out. The problem is just Valdy knows this, and he's pulling back. He wants to make sure his units are on the range of the Kurultai so that they can get that healing and a little bit of a damage buff in the mix.
Exactly, this is the window that JIF needs to leverage. Camel Lancers are some of the most oppressive early Castle Age units. You might say, oh yeah, it's the same thing as, you know, a mounted samurai or just a regular lancer, but it's not, because it also counters cavalry. So you cannot just chase it down with your Keshiks, because it's going to absolutely destroy the Keshik. And while doing so, he's also able to use those Camel Lancers to effectively hunt villagers. It's certainly a power window right now for JIF, but he needs to be very careful not to get isolated here. He could easily find himself trapped.
Oh, and he does have these archers out of position. I honestly thought the trade would be so much better, but quickly the Desert Raiders are showing us they are nothing to be messed with. Even if you have the counter unit, they need to counter a little bit in a bigger mass. And now the Camel Lancers, the front line has arrived, and archers are just melting like they're made of butter. And this is a tough position. Now the Keshik's coming in, trying to be that bit of a front line, but the Desert Raiders debuffing under the towers, though. This could be expensive.
Yeah, this is an expensive fight right here, and these are now Castle Age Desert Raiders. The Castle Age upgrades are not in for Valdy. He has 8 archers left, and the veterans he just came in. And in the meantime, he's looking for villagers. This is what he was looking for. Villagers are not running towards the tower, and this is exactly what JIF needs. Villagers trying to make a run for the TC, but that's so many casualties out there. Half of the eco idled, the other half is lying dead on the floor.
And now if JIF pulls back, he has a huge advantage in this, and he needs to make sure that he keeps these guys as alive as possible, as now he's getting those dervishes, which will be able to heal them up and take yet another fight. Which, you know, with camels, it just feels different. You can see 14 villager difference here for him as well. JIF now moving out onto the map, trying to get a little bit of that gold control still out on the resources, going for food against Mongols, which is crazy considering when you're playing against Mongols, you're usually so oppressed by these Keshiks.
Yeah, it's one of the things that Ayubits can respond to so well. The Camel Lancers just absolutely butcher all these Keshik. The response would be, and should be, ooh, Vololo coming in here. This might not connect. Indeed, the Dervish goes down and the Keshik disengaged. Nice little snipe here by Valdy.
And getting that out just means another bunch of investments that he needs to make into getting yet another dervish. But the thing is, he's got the access, he's got the control, he's got the power. He doesn't want to fight under the Kurultai, but he just needs to find another angle and keep attacking, and he's got the power to do so. He's got the mobility. There's no slow two-legged unit in this composition. All of his units have 4 legs, and they're having a wonderful time of exploiting it. That active aggression is showing us exactly why mobility has been such a huge issue for a lot of players.
And why it has been such a big factor in competitive games overall. Looking at the ecos though, I'm starting to get worried for Valdy here. We have 2 complete ponds of fishing for JIF. It's 1.5 at the best for Valdy. He's down by 13 eco. He's kind of confined into his own base as well. And when it comes to the unit compositions, it's heavily on the crossbows, but those will be slow. And if you're JIF, all you want to do is confine your opponent into his base and just keep running circles around him. Find opportunities to fight without the crossbowmen being available nearby.
Now, with this, Valdy is definitely putting himself in a spot where he's open for raiding. We see the Kurultai being out there. It is going to be able to secure an area with that army, but JIF is doing the right thing and running away from it and running straight into more villages. This is just constant aggression showing us how dangerous this could be. But again, he's losing quite a bit of units here, and JIF, he needs to be careful not to lose too much, because I say that, but under the TC, everything is in shambles. Everyone's idle, running for their lives. The camels are a menace, and it looks like Valdy is drowning right now.
It's the exact kind of fight that JIF needs. Perhaps he overstayed his welcome just a tiny bit, but when it's all said and done, it's a major difference maker. You do have an untouched economy back at home. Vololo attempt coming in here at the villagers. Villagers do get deleted, so the conversion does not happen. Nice little last second touch by JIF. That's a big loss. That's -5 villagers right off the get-go.
And that puts them a little bit closer to one another. I mean, Valdy, he's in a tough position, but now he's the one pushing, and he looks like he realizes he's got that lead. Yes, you just sacrifice a lot of your units for a bunch of idle time. Oh my goodness, but he overextends just a little bit to get a nice... Oh, never mind, the charge does not land, luckily for Valdy. And these camels need to back away for a bit, but the crossbow numbers are doing some work.
I feel like this is one of those situations where JIF cannot take a head-on fight against all these crossbows, archers, and Keshik. But he doesn't need to. He just needs to keep running around the enemy and look for opportunities to hurt the eco. I would love to see an attempt to sneak a dock on the enemy pond, the one to the far west specifically. Because if you did that, he could take out another 7-8 workers without major issues.
Now, with JIF reaching this point where he can afford to get these upgrades, Valdy can afford something else. And Lidogor, you know what time of day it is. It is an Imperial day, and I am excited to see what Valdy can do with this. The problem is usually when you're going Imperial, it means you didn't go for units. And this is creating that opening for JIF to make a push happen. He does have 12 camel lances, and these things do hit like a truck. The problem is when you're diving and there's that many crossbows, it's pretty hard to keep them alive.
I just feel like this might be a suicide Imperial. It's difficult to dive with this army for JIF, but committing to Imperial when at best you have a one-on-one army ratio is debatable. If he just gets pushed here and he loses a bunch of villagers during the age-up, it could be game, and that's exactly what might end up happening. Camel Lancers looping around. Even if this army from JIF gets cleaned up, if it costs 15-20 villagers for Valdy, it's not gonna matter.
Now, that age-up...
power, though.
Yeah, the age-up is standing still, but at least it's not getting cancelled. And all the camels, they're trying their best at shutting this down. It does look like they're making a little bit of leeway, and even with that TC fire, it's doing the work it needs to. The camel lances are all cooked, and this is just a little bit of a delay. It did do a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. 30 dead villagers is nothing to be like, ho-ho about. But JIF, he could go up himself pretty soon. Now, he doesn't plan on doing so. He's just getting mangonels and going to push because this is a Cognate Palace and it needs time to tick. And you do not simply give this thing time to tick. Palace Guards, first unit.
I don't like the outcome here for JIF. And he was kind of splitting the damage between the enemy army and the villagers. And I feel like if you're going to end up losing your entire army anyways, might as well just snipe 15-20 villagers to stall out the age. Because when it's all said and done, as you said, it's a lot of losses, but 20 villagers as compared to an age advantage and a landmark that produces free units, you could make an argument either way. If the imp upgrades come in, Valdy is not completely out of this one. Now, mangonels will roll in and the villagers are heavily damaged, so there could be a second wave to this for JIF. Manjanique starting to take out the buildings, but the real storyline is going to be about this gold mine.
Oh, that gold mine is critical to this poor economy, as we see 600 gold per minute being the only refuge for this poor man. But you can see constant re-maxing for JIF. He wants to stay in castle and keep this push going. And the Manjanique doing pretty decent job. A villager being pulled at just repairing this. You can see he knows the importance of keeping the gold under control, because lack of gold means lack of upgrades, and he cannot fight an Imperial army constantly.
Trying to break out of his base over here, but I don't think he's got a lot of elite upgrades on his forces just yet. Blacksmith upgrades, also somewhat questionable on Valdy's side. Manjanique starting to tear down these buildings. If that second tower is gone, I think JIF is going to jump on the gold miners. He also has the Sacred Site timer taking mangonels, repositioning here a little. Nice volley here, pushing back the crossbows. Khan is going to fall, and this is getting alarming for Valdy. He still has an okay villager count, but that might change very shortly.
And I love the switch from JIF. He's so fast with switching between getting the fire shots versus just getting plain old cannonballs on top of them. So this is the beauty of your AOBits and maxing your civilization, using every bit of advantage. Now, that gold mine is kaput, and he needs to find another source for himself, but he's getting one upgrade, and it's a castle age upgrade for those spears. This is not... Oh, a feudal age upgrade for the spears, and excuse me.
Better late than never. It just feels like one of those, again, kind of Doom Imperial ages where you age up, but if you don't have an army that can protect you while you get the leverage from that age up, it's just so difficult. And that's exactly what we're seeing. JIF is diving into this one, taking out critical infrastructure, the market to balance out the eco. Without that, you cannot even buy food, and Valdy is certainly struggling with the food. Cognate Palace has to make a run for it.
And usually Mongols, they have something to fall back on, aka towers, protection. Your opponent doesn't have a massive army of 60 units. And all of those things are on the side. Oh my goodness, JIF, you sneaky little man. You are now doing exactly what Voldemort did to you. For a second there, it looked like he was going straight for the landmark. But he knows he needs to be safe about this. Mangonel switch coming in, making sure that he gets the good old rock walls on top of the army. And that Hui Hui Pao, he's in trouble.
I think this is probably the only moment where you really hate a Huawei Bao spawning for you. It's going to be a non-factor in this fight, and Valdy just has nowhere to go. It is going to be the second game falling into the hands of JIF. After a long and grindy game number 1, we had a quicker game number 2 here. JIF equalizes the series.
And Lidicor, I need to thank you for cursing this set, as guys, Lidicor has just cursed us to a 5-hour set between these two. Lidicor, you will keep our day long, and I'm so happy about it, because this is the kind of set that I was hoping for. See,
I'm sorry, but I mean, a 5-hour set is not a curse, it's a blessing. If anything, I bless the broadcast, not curse it.
Okay. No, I agree. I would love to see what's going on the other side of the bracket too. With Valdy and JIF, this is just heating up so much. And we can take a look at these replays. We'll talk about the upcoming game too. Guys, there are some big matches stretching all around that are just... It's high stakes. As we've mentioned time and time again, they need to win this. Otherwise, they're all down there at the Silver League, making sure that they get some action, but it's not the glorious top 16 as you'd want. Look at that dirty delete. I actually think we might, as tournament organizers, Lidicor, we might need to cook on this. Do we outlaw the unit deletion for Wololoz?
No.
For one game, for one tournament?
No, we don't. That's one of the funniest things out there, just like mass deleting your stuff to prevent the Vololo from happening. I gotta say, that's one of the nice little touches out there. And if you think about it, for the player losing the units, it's exactly the same. It's just a matter of not conceding more to the opponent.
I feel like you've been the victim of one of those Wololoz. So, yes.
No, I just come from AoE 2, where this is commonplace, you know.
Okay. Disgusting AoE 2. So, guys, let's take a quick look at this. And we see MSN taking down Lash 2-0 convincingly. Creator taking down Scatterbrain 2-1. That's going to be a pretty tough one for MSN, but I believe in my Danish goat here.
And then, looking at Corvinus versus Ayame. Ayame took out Core 2-0. We've seen him play earlier today. Went on to take out Core, but now Corvinus is up 2-0 against him. JIF and Valdy, 1 apiece on the bottom right of your screen. And Sass took out Mio Maika. Sass is going to be fighting against Galidakl, which is... That's an interesting series here. One of those two players will make it into the top 16, and I don't think many people would have predicted that before the tournament began.
Definitely not. I mean, YZY, the first game we watched, we saw this man is dominating, but golly, I'm impressed with the German lad. He is looking good, especially after those initial crashes. The man had to work his way up and show us that his computer is strong enough to take this tournament. But I'm really impressed with the fact that Gully has made it this far. Even if he doesn't make it, it would still be something that I am so excited for him about. Because again, he's one of those rising stars that we get to see. So, guys, pretty big games. I am so happy to see that we have some rising talent coming all the way through. It's just crazy to think that we have JIF Music here against Valdy. 6 months ago, this would not be a conversation. And now, it is. Oh, yeah.
Well, game number 3 coming up in 2 minutes. Coastal Cliffs on the way. It is going to be Chinese versus the Golden Horde here. Golden Horde, not something that you see every single day on Coastal Cliffs.
But
China...
before we say
that...
Hmm?
Before we say that, I was going to just highlight the fact that even if a player falls out of the tournament right here, the Silver League is waiting for them, and there is $2,700 prize pool for the Silver League as well. So, for many of these players, their journey towards the main event ends here, but they will be one of the strongest competitors in the Silver League in the weeks to come.
Now, what happens with the Silver League's coverage? Do we have any streamers that cover those games as well?
Hopefully.
Oh, Twitch chat, you hear that? If you're a content creator, please go cast those games as well. We want to make sure that everyone gets to see a little bit of what is out there. So, you know what you got to do. Every single one of you, me included. Yes, us with day jobs. Guys, you have a duty
Either way, so yeah, that's going to be the Silver League. And of course, a lot of series coming up in the main league as well. Elite Classic is one of those tournaments where we have multiple sets overlapping in the group stage. So we're going to be giving you a really good mix of players as they head into a semi-round robin setup. But before that, we still have to qualify a couple of players, either Valdy or JIF. Coastal Cliffs, Chinese versus Golden Horde coming up in just a moment.
And seeing China make its way through again. Guys, China's back. We get to see a little bit of action. I know you're sitting here, you're like, China, how do I play that civilization? Because the guys at the top have shown us, and then it disappeared because it was banned every single time. But this time, Coastal Cliffs, China coming on out, and Golden Horde gets to show us what that matchup actually looks like. Both of these civilizations, usually no Dark Age shenanigans, so keeping it pretty standard. In the red, we have JIF music on the Golden Horde, and Valdy, our yellow Chinese. Ooh, hello, Golden Horde. Oh yes, far uwu, good guy. Marathons.
Yeah, that's a very offset stone mine right here, and that's one of the unique things on this map, specifically Coastal Cliffs. Some of your mines actually spawn further away from your town center than they usually do. So it's not as clear-cut as, hey, I'm being aggressed, I'm just going to jump back into the TC. It's a little bit more difficult to defend these somewhat exposed gold and stone mines.
Now, looking at those spawns for a second, you have two back golds here for JIF. Now, I would say, oh my goodness, he has no walls, but this is Golden Horde, they have walls. Wow. So that's a pretty nice and easy spot to secure if ever needed, but you're up against the China. You're not sitting here worried about any raids coming your way anytime soon. But Chinese on this map, we've seen go for still pro scouts. So looking at the deer spawns, though, it doesn't look like too hard of a feat for him. He's got 2 deer very close to him, but he could also just move out there and get them with how close they are. On JIF's side, those are 2 very spread apart, so you might be able to yoink a few of those if you decide to go that way too. Now, as we see slowly progressing, because again, no Dark Age shenanigans. Finally, the age ups are gonna come on in, and both of these players are playing Civs with the most standard age ups in the world. Imperial Academy, what a shocker, coming out. We're getting Imperial officials, Lidicor. Wow.
I get the feeling that you're not a big fan of Chinese gameplay right now.
No, I love it. I love it. I just always make fun of the Dark Age because it's very linear. And it's good. So we need linear gameplay as well. Not everything needs to be a surprise. Yeah. So I love it. I actually really enjoy playing against China because I feel like China is the civilization where you can scout it, you know exactly what they're going to go for, and you can respond accordingly. And they win based on skill, especially now. A lot of times, a civilization has like a little gimmick that you can pull out, surprise your opponent, but China, it's just a great civilization, and that's why players also play it. It's fantastic as far as now balance also goes. So, Khan and Torgoods also for Golden Horde, pretty common. We're not getting any of the building carts out. We are still going straight into Khan and Torgoods.
Yeah, that's kind of what you expect from the Golden Horde at this stage. Torgoods obviously one of the power units of early game across AoE 4. I'm more curious about how Valdy is going to approach this one, because China is traditionally a slow build-up civilization that often gets confined into its own base early game. And every time we saw a game today that JIF was part of, every time the opponent just set in their base with a slightly more defensive civilization, JIF was able to exploit that map control and slowly pick away at the villagers. So I feel like from a strategic standpoint, this is something that makes me feel, fairly comfortable for JIF.
Now, looking at comfortability levels, that's important and all, but I see a lot of gold stacking up for a Chinese player. And comfortability usually doesn't include pro scouts when your opponent is going Cannon Torgoods, because Cannon Torgoods, they are going to do a pretty good job at shutting down pro scouts, I believe. Now, we said earlier that those two deer packs are on the same side, so it should be easy enough to grasp. But JIF, if he plays this aggressive enough, he can punish pretty quickly, because that's the beauty of going for the Cannon Torgoods. Barak's coming out too. He is not planning on letting this go through easily. Pro scouts instantly. And a horseman. So responsible. He doesn't go for a scout, he goes for a horseman, because he's a smart man. Now that horse doesn't just shut down any sneaky shenanigans, it also forces a reaction out of JIF. Now, getting the scout second, perfectly fine. He gave himself that little bit of time to make his way out onto the map, force a little bit of reaction, and we do see that JIF is reacting by putting down a tower all the way forward. But now with that horseman, if spotted, he can do some really good work. And you can see with that horseman, he knows that there might be a play for the deer.
Yeah, it's one of those things where a single horseman is not going to deny that, though. First pack of deer is coming in, and that's a very conservative deer pack to start with. It kind of makes you feel like Valdy knew that there was going to be enemies coming his way, and he just wanted to bring in the carcasses that he was sure he can get. But every time you play Pro Scouts, if all you can do is secure your own deer, that's usually not enough. You want to take at least a bite out of the opponent's deer as well.
And with those spears now moving their way from both sides, you are not going to have a great time with all of that. That one horseman burning down the Uwu a little bit at a time, but the spear's already in position to harass that. And Valdy, he is now standing there with the spears, ready to punish the Khan for stepping out this far, and more deer will make its way home. But still, they were slowed down at least a little bit. Oh, the spears. Ooh, getting a pretty decent hit on the scout here, but he does stay alive for now. And the Batu Khan, untouched mostly, but now he's got the Torgoods to support him. And all of a sudden, these deer are not going to be all for free. Valdy has stopped making spears, though. And this gets me a little bit worried. He's seen the spears from JIF, so there could be a little bit of a switch coming in. But another spear in the queue. He definitely put down a production building there. Are we getting archers? Or just the wall? We'll find out soon.
I love that little wall to the south. It's just such a low-effort thing, and it's going to help you so much when it comes to preventing ugly raids, especially because your lumberjacks are on that side. And when the enemy cavalry just swings in from around the forest, by the time you notice them, you lost a villager. So, low-effort wall, but it's something that's going to help immensely. Could be useful to drop a bit of a wall to the north of these lumberjacks as well, just to be sure. And, you know, just as I'm saying this, here comes the cavalry, only to bump into that wall.
And it wastes a little bit of time, but for them, they haven't revealed anything. So the thing about the Torgoods is the damage is pretty low. So even if they charge in, it's not like you're securing a kill like you do with a knight. Ooh, that horseman, it's getting its value. Even if it's just idling out, it's definitely getting the value just of idle time, just of reaction with the spears. And now you see Valdy is just snacking on his deer. He's bringing them home safely. And the Torgoods, they tried to look for damage, but got nothing instead. Valdy now slowly going back onto gold. He feels comfortable. He's got archers. He's got spears. It's time to think about what's next for him. And with 5 on gold, he might be thinking about, I was going to say about castle, because, yeah, there we go. There's the tower. He wants to secure this pretty safely, or at least find an answer to what JIF is about to do. And JIF feels like he's committed to this.
Well, he kind of needs to be committed, because if he kind of lets up on this, the Pro Scouts will eventually start paying off. I wonder if there's a Song Dynasty play here for Valdy. Looks like, just based on the resource bank, that might have been something that he's thinking about. Or Castle Edge. It's a little difficult to tell apart the two when it comes to villager distribution initially.
especially with those taxes, it changes the game so quickly. But the thing is, it's still an option. The Barbican, though, not really in a position to get a juicy land on it, because there's just so much pressure here from JIF. So it does look like it's going to be a clean, I say clean castle, but he's being very conservative about this, getting +1 ranged attack as well. He knows if he goes naked, he dies.
Yeah, that's just the way things are. And remember, he tried that in the previous game. Tried to age up to Imperial while being behind in the military department, and that did not work out. I wonder if he's going to try to do the same thing. It looks like that's going to be the plan. I'm not going to lie, if he gets up to Castle Age and starts bumping out Palace Guards, that could be dangerous for JIF.
Now, with JIF slowly making his way out with, again, very mobile units. And this is what he's shown us now he loves to do. And he's so good at. Valdy, he's got the upgrades. He's got a few units, and he's been very conservative about this. Villagers force drop-off. He is ready for that age up. And the Imperial Palace with 9. This is where I'm a little bit shocked to see this from Valdy. When you age up, it's very important for you to be able to survive the age up. And usually you want to ask yourself, can I age up? And if the answer is you will die, you do it a little bit slower at least. But Valdy, he says, I need this and I need this now. He doesn't have the gold in the bank. He doesn't have the units to really survive if this becomes a very heavy push. So this is a very risky move here, at least with him not having all the resources ready for when that age up hits. But the man, he's one of the top players. Let's see how it lands, because now JIF is about to move out. Valdy has just lost a bunch of units here at the back, and we can see JIF putting down another stable. This is going to be a very heavy push.
It has to be, because you either rush your Castle Age, and he's nowhere close to doing that, or you're just going to have to punish the early Castle Age of your opponent, and this is a great angle to strike from. We see this so many times that the player gets up to Castle Age, but if their gold is denied, they cannot get the techs they need. I don't think those archers are veterans just yet, but I stand corrected, they are. But if you cannot secure this gold mine, you're not going to have any of the other technologies come in, and you're not going to have any of the premium units come in. He is able to squeeze out a Lancer though, and with the veteran archers, he's able to get some breathing room. Looks like Valdy is going to stabilize here, and JIF could be in a troublesome spot.
Yeah, those archer upgrades just came in with the exact amount of time. Oh, perfectly right here. We see the spears trying to be a bit of a front line here, but JIF is very quick on the fingers, and he does need to be careful, cannot overextend with all these forces just yet, and he does pull back. We do see the production slowing a little bit initially, but just to switch over to those Keshiks, which is now in queue. And that's why that stable was put down. He is staying in feudal, and he's going to make Keshiks now. And we do see 2 red dots. So now this is going to be a split attack. It's a very risky move, but if it splits the army, this is where things fall out of control, because now that gold is the one that's going to be under duress. We do see that army being split from both of them. But this is usually where things fall apart.
Yeah, Valdy does not take the bait, and there's just nothing that JIF can do about this. Oh boy, he swings in with the cavalry as well, but the spearmen were waiting for him. Valdy knew exactly what was going to happen. He kept track of these armies, pushes them both away, and this is one of those spots where you can stay in feudal, you're just going to have a very tough time. The technology advantage is now starting to show very, very heavily on the field.
And Palace Guards in the mix makes this so tough to handle, because yes, you have 31, soon to be 34 archers, but with the Palace Guard numbers, you're going to struggle. The +1 ranged attack of range defense is coming in now, and what follows after, we know. That is going to get harder and harder as time goes. Oh, but the archers are very far forward. He does get a little bit of a pick off here and there. The horses get on top, but spears are right behind, ready to take this. And we do see the micro battle coming on in, but this is just an advantage for Valdy. Let's see if that micro can pay off. The spearman numbers trying to get through all these horses, but the archers are focus firing every single bit they can. You do see the front line falling though, and it looks like Valdy's front line is not holding up just yet. +2 ranged attack has hit, so these archers are going to be able to deal with these armored units at least a little bit, and it does look like Valdy holds this.
He will. It's a Castle Age army against a Feudal Age army. And those Palace Guards, it was just only 2 or 3 Palace Guards, but there was no direct response from JIF to those. Those soaked up so much arrow fire, and when it's all said and done, it's a wipe of armies in either direction. But what matters the most is that JIF needs to constantly spend more resources into replenishing this army, and while doing so, he's not going to get to Castle Age. Valdy is also spending all his resources on replenishing, but he's already up in Castle, so he doesn't need to worry about that.
Oh, and you can see that +2 attack is doing wonders here. Now, getting the idle time on the food too, JIF is the man with 16, 12 idle villages every now and again, just putting himself at such a huge disadvantage. And staying in feudal, it was his decision, and it's the one that ultimately killed him. And I think this is where, usually, when you make that decision, there's that very small window. Valdy now going for the Song Dynasty too. He's realized, I won the fights, I can quickly secure another point of this map, go get myself a boar, I don't need to think about food for another while longer. And this man, he's not lasting that long.
Yeah, Song Dynasty is just going to start escalating Valdy's lead here even more. Perhaps he overstayed his welcome a bit. With a couple more Keshik, these archers could be cleaned up. But again, at the end of the day, what matters is that JIF is still in Feudal Age, and while that's the case, it's going to be very, very difficult to match up against the Castle Age army. Notice that with the Castle Age Blacksmith upgrades, even the archers do reasonably well against the Keshik. Normally that would be a tough matchup for the archers, but when you have a complete age advantage, you can do reasonably well.
It does look like JIF has survived a bit here, and it was because Valdy, he struggled a bit on the food there for a second, until the boar situation came out. Getting that Song Dynasty, you stopped your momentum for a second, but JIF now gets to go up to Castle himself. And now the question is just, is Valdy going to have a timing here where he shuts this down? He's got that access to the ball, he's snacking like there's no tomorrow, and the Lancers are going to start coming through, very quickly becoming a problem if JIF doesn't find an answer. Now, JIF not producing a single thing, and the age up is going to take a while.
Yeah, this is the problem that you're seeing here. When you're so delayed to aging up and you don't really have a massive standing army, aging up leaves you exposed. That was the case with Valdy as well. He was exposed while he was aging up, but he survived. But now it's JIF who's exposed, and not only is he going to get attacked as he's aging up, he's going to get attacked by a vastly superior army. It is going to be a considerably higher quality army that he faces off against. And for Valdy, the moment he sees that age up, he should just dive and trade this army before the Castle Age upgrades come in for JIF.
Now, very quickly, we see JIF just getting himself into a spot where he's forcing Valdy to keep making units, but he also doesn't want Valdy to feel comfortable enough to move out. Like, hey, these horses are going to stop coming at you. But very quickly, that mass is turning to to JIF's side, and he is going to be in danger pretty soon. There's nothing he can make to really stop this push that is about to hit.
I love this little touch here. You go out, see if there is anyone out there on that deer patch or the berries. It's not even about killing the villagers, it's just disrupting the opponent's economy, causing a distraction. And indeed, as the age up is coming in, the archers will dive. And for JIF, he's not going to have anything left the moment he reaches Castle Age. Even the Keshik do get cleaned up by the archers. That's the crazy thing. That is how much an age difference actually matters in these fights.
You can see the TC, he's trying to let the TC do the work here. He can try to keep holding on, especially with that TC fire. He's got a little bit of power here, because those are just archers that are left. They're not going to be able to withstand that fire too much, but he cannot lose too many villages. I feel like we've watched this trade before, and it can be a bit of an overcommitment, but with the follow-up from Valdy, we can see Lancers, Palace Guards, more archers.com, and this is just going to get out of hand as time progresses. We now see crossbows in the mix, but crossbows, they're going to do great. You just need more of them.
Yeah, it's just a matter of trickling in units versus a big blob, and oh no, the villagers are getting caught off guard. I hope that there is a gate in those walls, because if there is not, they're fully trapped. There is a wall down south. Nice little surround here by JIF, I'll give him that. villagers are still intact, and perhaps a slight overextension here by Valdy. Some villagers were idled out, but still, just look at the inefficiency of these fights here for JIF. And if the villagers start getting sniped out, it's going to be extremely difficult to recover from that.
Now the archer's getting cleaned up, a few palace guards also paying the price, but it's temporary. Valdy still has that boar meat that was pouring in, and this helped him so much in just producing constantly. Thing is, full crossbows, they're not that scary, but they are going to make sure that these palace guard raids don't hit the same way they used to. Now the archer mass, it's still scary, but all of a sudden, the horses from JIF, they are no longer going to melt instantly. We do see Springald emplacement coming out on those very chunky towers too, and the archer upgrade for JIF music. Now, you just gotta ask yourself, where am I going to get all the resources to keep making archers from? He has to pull back here. The problem is just, he's lost some villagers. He needs to find a way to stay up to date with this, and the pasture economy is not looking too good.
It's one of those things where the more I'm looking at this game, the more I'm seeing JIF stabilize. And, you know, we do have to highlight the fact that Valdy overextended a little and he threw away a lot of units in small groups. When it's all said and done, the eco differential is fairly small. And now JIF is up to Castle Age. I think he's through the worst and he actually survived a situation that, frankly, he should not have survived.
JIF with that archer mass, it was just not something that was scary enough under a TC, and that is usually an issue with that archer investment. Archers have been so great, but the problem is just when they need to close out a game, people tend to overestimate how deep they can go in. Now, with these horses, he's just keeping the army busy. JIF behind this, recovering, getting more crossbows, and now getting his own men-at-arms. But Valdy is already prepped. You can see he's got crossbows galore. He was already prepped with those Keshiks.
Yeah, it's starting to be a very, very chaotic game, but this is where we get to the stage of, you know, what JIF does the best. And that is these small groups of units raiding left and right, picking off villagers. Because if you look at Valdy, I think the biggest loss here in the last few minutes was that even when he dove the enemy base, he wasn't able to pick off villagers. It's 6 villagers killed as opposed to 4, or make it 7-3 actually. It's not a lot of eco damage done by Valdy, despite the fact that he had a considerable army advantage for a while.
JIF is just maxing on different things, making units that can handle what Valdy has in store, or what he thinks Valdy has in store. But I see some horsemen switch coming in, and I love this. Valdy finally switching to horsemen this early in the game shows us that he realizes, hey, we've done this before. I know how I need to react, but JIF has the same idea. He's seen the crossbow numbers, he's seen the archer numbers, he knows that this is not going to be a constant Keshik type of trade that he needs to take. So gets his own horsemen in the mix too, and these guys just being completely in sync. And I mean, horseman against horseman, I'll take the money on China, because China just does so well with getting the food up and running and replacing these when times get tough.
Bit of a skirmish here in the middle, and now with the crossbows in, most of the heavy cavalry here from Valdy is getting pushed away. The clear target from JIF is this wood line to the front, and if he can break this army right here, he could jump the villagers. Remember, Valdy wasn't able to kill many villagers throughout this game. JIF could easily get a 1-up here if he gets a couple of villager picks. Looks like he's going to get repelled. In the meantime, though, counterattack towards the middle. And Valdy is going to be the one killing villagers here. No response from JIF. This is exactly what Valdy needed.
Now, Valdy, for a second there, it looked like he was sliding backwards here, but he held and traded perfectly. Now, JIF with a lot of crossbows and a lot of gold in the bank, to be honest. This does mean that he can switch things up if needed, but ooh, now little raids coming in, and Valdy doing a good job at, again, idling out that economy. And one thing we can look at here is we see that the pastures, they've been set up, but they are not very well protected. So when a dive like this happens, it can be catastrophic quickly.
I feel like JIF just needs a couple more walls, because every single time a raid comes in from Valdy, it's only a handful of units. Same applies on the other side for Valdy, but Valdy is a lot more active building the walls. And because JIF wasn't able to retaliate against the eco, now it's actually a 10 villager differential in the favor of Valdy.
And Valdy, Song Dynasty, it hits well, but it takes time, and he's been given that time. Now, JIF, I would like to see what this transition is for him. Now, usually, Golden Horde in the late game, they can spiral out of control, especially with that triple production that they get. But Valdy, I feel like he's going to be able to find a way to close this out before, if he keeps this momentum going. Oh, those crossbows, they're a little bit far forward. The horsemen right on top of them, destroying everything in front of them. We see a few Keshiks trying to frontline, but the damage definitely has been done.
Yeah, not all of the units here for JIF were available immediately, and he got a little caught off guard. Is going to be able to pull away, though, and that's what matters the most. In the end, it ends up being a fairly balanced trade. Valdy has an opportunity to push up, and I'm just seeing a big cluster of villagers being pulled away from the gold mine in the northern side of the map for JIF. You need to be very, very careful at this point on this map, because some of the villagers are just going to be in the middle of nowhere. Notice that there are no small tree patches, no stealth forests whatsoever. You could easily be in the literal middle of nowhere with nowhere to run.
And JIF right now is putting himself on the back foot, but he needs to think about, how do I respond to this army? And for him, it just seems to be, hey, more crossbows. But you've seen the horsemen, you've seen the switch, and you haven't found a way to respond to it yet. He is just investing in more and more crossbows, but it just doesn't feel like that could be a reasonable answer here. Now getting Spearman upgraded too, he wants to switch back to those, but I don't know if it's going to be a little bit too late when all these horses arrive. It feels like Valdy has this momentum that he gets to exploit now, and if he doesn't back down, JIF is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Bit of a cavalry raid here by Valdy, but that gets checked. Again, I have to emphasize the importance of these walls for Valdy, because that just gives him the exact level of security he needs to avoid random cavalry running into his eco. And now that he's comfy and cozy behind those walls, he's going to age up to Imperial Age, something that JIF is not really ready for, partly because he's totally out of gold.
And he's not going to be anywhere near ready for anything like that at the moment. Valdy sees that this is the gold he's relying on. Valdy is moving his army mostly onto the side. And that tiny patch of gold that he had at the back there is not going to keep up with this. Again, 3 more crossbows in queue. JIF believes in this crossbow composition. And Valdy doesn't care. This Great Wall Gatehouse coming up, it's interesting to see it this far forward instead of protecting his farms, and it could pay off in the early game. But if JIF survives and gets out of this, this is still a pretty rough position to have your Great Wall Gatehouse on.
It is going to be a gatehouse that partially protects the wood line, and it's going to secure gold, though. And gold access could be a key consideration, but the dive happens here now for JIF. He knows that age up is coming, and if he needs to fight, he needs to do it now. I just do not know if he has enough here to dive this Great Wall Gatehouse. It's not going to happen in time. He's going to be able to get away potentially, but either way, he's not going to be able to stop this age up.
And behind this, he's got 13 on gold. He's thinking about what that next move needs to be. He has more horsemen in the queue. He realizes, hey, maybe this horseman would have been a good idea, but 2,000 food per minute, it doesn't feel like it's enough to be able to catch up to this. And Valdy, he's got this momentum now. You see the upgrades sticking. This is China. They get to supervise and get it faster and better. And right now, he's looking at that kill. The horsemen coming through, they are able to pick up a few of these, but the spearman in the mix is going to make this a lot harder micro-wise.
Upgrades are not yet in, and this is exactly when JIF needs to fight. But I just feel like by the time he really closes the distance, the upgrades will be in. And we are getting a rinse and repeat of what we had earlier this game. An age advantage for Valdy. And this time around, JIF is not going to make the same decision that he did in Feudal. He's not going to stick around. He's going to try to rush up an Imperial. Secret sites have been captured by Valdy, though, and remember, he could easily wall this one off and then focus the army to the northern one. It could be a realistic timer on this map. It's not like, say, Hillandale or Dry Arabia, where you have to control 3 sacred sites. Fairly small map, only 2 sacred sites. Could become a realistic win condition.
The thing is, he's getting the stone, but right now he's getting the network trade. But the problem is, this takes 2 minutes, and he doesn't have 2 minutes of life left in him. Good trade here, and we do see with all those pastures around the TC, again, great having all those pastures set up. But what happens when you get attacked? And that attack feels imminent here. Now, Yam Trade Network, another minute and a half. We need a lot of time. JIF, he is hoping that Valdy gets stuck on these type of tower trades, that he has more time to try and survive this. Because the gold that he has access to will not last through all the upgrades that he requires.
Yeah, this is getting into a situation where, as you said, gold is going to start running out, space is starting to run out. This map could easily turn into a very chaotic late game very quickly when the resources just suddenly disappear and you're just gonna be looking at each other like, okay, we gotta fight because there's nothing else left on this map. Dive coming in here from Valdy, though. And this is before the imp upgrades from JIF music come in. As you said, you cannot really expedite your age up here with the Golden Horde, and that's exactly what Valdy is exploiting. For a second time in this game, he takes a fight in the enemy base. For a second time, he cleans up an inferior army because the opponent does not have the upgrades just yet. It looks like it's going to be enough, though. 85 army against 30. I had my doubts for a brief moment, but if you look at all the reinforcements coming in, this is going to be a complete cleanup of JIF's army.
And Valdy has learned from past mistakes. With +3 ranged armor, this was a lot less risky. And JIF, he most likely was waiting for this Imperial Age so that he could get emplacements on these towers, but those emplacements were so needed, and I don't even think they would have made the world of difference. But for him, this was just a little bit mistimed in all of that. He's trying to get every bit of resource he can, and we see a lot of idle villagers standing around, the TC firing, but JIF has had enough, and Valdy is looking like an absolute dominating menace on this series.
And with that, Valdy moves on to match point here. A critical game coming up for both of these players. Remember, the winner of this series will make it to the main event, and whoever loses will have to compete in the Silver League. And right now, JIF is down 2-1. He was very close yesterday. He lost to Louis 3-2. It would be such a hard break for JIF to lose another tightly contested set because, let's face it, both of these players were neck and neck so far.
And both of them have had a very much an uphill battle with all their brackets. I love the fact that they get to meet in this scenario. There were some pivotal moments here that we saw with JIF being able to push out, deny the gold, and it just was never enough. And this is the danger of playing against China, where you have your opponent just has that extra bit of access to gold with having your taxes coming on in. And those counter raids with the palace guards were absolutely spectacular. The fact that he was not always on top of it, because there were so many places to keep track of, it's showing us that Valdy is ready for that top 16. He's ready to fight. Now, with the upcoming game we see here on the left, Zushi was sniped again, and this is the second time in a row that Zushi gets sniped. Valdy does not get to play some Zushi, and I mean, after seeing his China, you definitely don't want to give him the variant thereof. And Macedonians getting sniped again. Another one from JIF that has been sniped multiple times in the series already. So, Byzantines going to be the choice here. And honestly, I mean, a lot of people are fearing Byzantines at all points. So this doesn't feel like he lost anything, and that's a snipe. See, that's the beautiful thing about Macedonians. Macedonians, they've been destruction every single time. And they're not being let through on any of this.
Yeah, that's just going to be your usual state of affairs, I would say. When you have a powerful civilization like this, that's just known to be powerful, end of the sentence, period, it is not something that players will let through. I think what's actually interesting is, in a way, how you budget your global bans as opposed to the map-specific bans. Because as you can see at the top of the screen, you can ban certain civilizations and make them totally unavailable for picking, but you do pick 2 civilizations for every single map, so technically you can keep denying an additional civilization regardless of the map. It's an interesting math to look at, and something that we perhaps have a little bit more time to talk about because we still have 5 minutes or 5 minutes to wait before the game begins. But before that, I think it would be an awesome opportunity to look at the brackets because this series has been going on for a while, and, there are 3 other decider sets going on. Let's see how those sets have been going on so far.
I'm so glad you mentioned that bracket. I was so angsty to see what the results are. So, guys, let's go see who actually already qualified for that top 16 round-robin situation that we've got going. And now, there we go. There we go. I thought Cal was going to leave us hanging, but Creator 1 up against MSN. That's a rough one. MSN, the kid, needs to make his way through, but Corvinus solidified his spot already, taking down Ayame 3-1. So Corvinus, our first qualifier, or qualifier for today, I guess. Yes.
And that's a big one for him. He's been kind of on and off in a way. When you look at his competitive performances, he's been one of the old school players of the AoE 4 scene. He's been around a long time, but he was always at that very edge of the top 16 or top 12, depending on the tournament. It's going to be a big one for him getting in there, and, I always love when Corvinus qualifies because he does have that cheeky playstyle to him. You know that when it's a Corvinus set, you're going to see something funky, something fun. Even if he's a massive underdog, his series are always fun to look at.
Now, with Gully and Sass on the other side, I am so... See, if I had an extra set of eyes, I would love to take a look at those because I can imagine this is going to be a tight one. So, these guys have fought a very, very long way to get here. But in the end, they are up against the best of the best after this. So, I think for the people qualifying in this last round, what's going to be important is to show us that they can, in that round-robin format, actually go up against these top players. Because it's so difficult to see these guys perform in tournaments, because when you qualify in your last qualifier, your first opponents are Marine Lord, Beastie, Vortex, and like Wham or Papipo. It's not like you have a little bit of breathing room to actually show the skill and show us what you're made of. But with this format, they get to do exactly that.
And that's a big thing. Every single game matters. You take away one game from a big name, that's going to get you some extra prize money. At the same time, because it's a round-robin style format, you're also going to be competing against some of the players that qualified just like you did. So, very much so, even if, you barely got in, say, you played some tightly contested sets, made it into the main event, you have a chance of really showing yourself against some of the other players who also got in through the qualifiers. It's not just about beating, the big names in a single elimination bracket.
Now, we are ready to take a quick look at what the rest of the draft could look like as well, as the game is almost ready to go. And I want us to take a quick moment to look at what's left for Baldland, because we haven't actually seen Baldland today. We've seen it in the draft, but we haven't gotten to Baldland. And I feel like if we don't get to Baldland, we might be able to diagnose this as the curse of the Baldland draft. Because Baldland has been a map that was such a powerful map for people who were able to raid. So JIF, he opted for Gorge here, and we've seen him on Gorge. He's a good player on Gorge. But Baldland, I want to see if he is exactly the same there, because he's a raider, and what he's got left is we have Macedonians for him, and I mean, we're not gonna see Katie. I hopefully didn't jinx it, but there's also Abbasid. which we've seen getting sniped quite a few times now. On Valdy's side, you have Delhi and you still have Sengoku on that range. Oh no, Delhi is already chosen. Yeah, you have Zushi and Sengoku, both of them pretty scary on a map like Boltland.
Yes, I could see Sengoku Daimyo being an interesting choice there. Jushi, okay. There are some interesting choices available for JIF. There are Knights Templar, Abbasids, and Macedonians. And here's the thing. If you pick Macedonians alongside something else, you practically guarantee yourself that something else is going to be available. But here we are, game number 4 here. Match point in the favor of Valdy. The score is actually flipped, so do not get deceived by that, folks. Valdy, match point, 1 game away, 1 victory away from qualifying for the main event of Elite Classic 4. JIF with the color red as the Byzantines, facing off against Valdy's yellow with Delhi.
And Valdy on Delhi, I'm excited. We haven't seen a lot of airtime from Delhi, but it's also not a civilization that is something I think most players are fearing. It's again something very standard, just like China, where you have a pretty linear gameplay a lot of the time. And Valdy, he's shown us linear gameplay is something he's not afraid of. He can switch things up, he can stay the meta if he needs to, and he can do it well. So JIF, he's the one on our civilization that has a few wild cards. So our red Byzantines, I hope he has some things up his sleeve.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to Gorge, I think this is one of the better maps that play into the style of JIF, which has so far been uniformly the ability to slowly chip away at the enemy economy. Every single game that we've seen from him today, it was one using a slow grinding down of the opponent. Every once in a while, he swoops in, picks off 1 or 2 villagers, and slowly takes an advantage as a consequence. I'm not sure how he's going to do that with Byzantines, because, if anything, Byzantines is not the super heaviest cavalry-focused civilization, at least not early on. But I wonder if he's actually going to think about, say, horsemen in Feudal Age. Something that he might need anyways to deny the opponent from the sacred sites.
And Horseman has been a pretty safe play for Byzantines in general. It's not like you're having to make a unit outside of your meta. A lot of times when you're up against someone like Delhi, you are forced into traits that you don't necessarily want to take against the Civ. But I feel like Byzantines, they are happy whichever way they go. If you force them to make one thing or the other, they are happy campers all around. Dome of the Faith coming out. No surprises here. That's the wonderful world of Delhi. And that's just going to mean we are going to get a lot of scholars, a lot of education going around, which is good because people with the Byzantines, remember the day when we said we needed a PhD to play the Byzantines? Valdy is here to bring the education.
Careful about throwing around PhDs on this broadcast.
Lidicor flexing here on the rest of us.
I was just like, you need a PhD to play Byzantines. That finally qualifies me to do something gameplay-wise in this game, you know?
So Lidicor going to be our next EGC, Byzantines main right here confirmed. And we'll see. We'll see if JIF quakes in the shadow. A Grad Widery also coming out with 4. No rushes here today. And good old free upgrades coming out from Mr. Delhi.
Looking at the minimap here, it's one of those spawns for JIF where both of the wood lines are to the south, and everything else is to the north. Both stone mines, the berries, the gold. So really, there's going to be a lot of emphasis here for JIF to protect these. I would not hate a tower at some point to the north of those berries, just to kind of have some kind of defensive presence in the area.
Now, this is the interesting part that people usually think of. Okay, I just need to shut down the one side. On the other hand, I just need to protect the one side. And Byzantines, they're pretty good at protecting themselves in one spot if needed. So with all those resources being in that one spot, it does beg the question, is this going to be a problem? Or is this actually exactly what JIF needs to be able to try and push out? Now, Valdy already starting all his scholar production. Lovely. I don't know if we saw a stable being put down, because usually the timing is impeccable, and that is what we see every single time. Now, JIF still having that 2 on gold. We know we're going to either see a little bit of a wheelbarrow or double broadaxe. I always like to see what the pro players opt for in this scenario, because that first upgrade is usually so critical in understanding exactly how this game plays out. But with this position, yeah, there we go, double broadaxe. Now, this makes sense. You want to make sure that your production buildings, you can keep up. You need this. And also, when you're up against the Ghazi Raiders, usually, if your spawn is like this, you just need to protect in one place. Oof.
Scout getting dangerously close to that town center. Does only take a little damage, though. It looks like it's going to be a very, very eco-focused game here for JIF Music. It's all about the eco upgrades, both double broadaxe and the food upgrade coming in for JIF. And on the other side, I do see quite a few Ghazi Raiders on the way to do some harassment at the very least. I'm sure the overall plan is moving out for the sacred sites, though that has always been the theme of the Delhi play.
Now, not a big surprise to see these Ghazis coming on in, but it's annoying. And getting that scout there doesn't go down. No surround coming on the man just yet, but you can see how actively JIF is using his scout here. Wonderful work, but is it a little bit too greedy as he takes a little bit of a beating here? Villagers trying to get the damage done as they can, and Ghazis take a bit of damage, but that's the beauty of the Delhi. You're going to go back, you're going to heal up, and you're going to take yet another fight with favorable odds.
Yeah, I feel like this is a bit of a concern here for JIF, because at the end of the day, every single game where Valdy was able to dictate the tempo, those games usually fell into the hands of Valdy, and so far he's been the one that opened things up. He's got the Ghazi Raiders coming in, 5 scholars already. That's no joke. He's going to get the sacred sites, and then he's going to have a massive buildup of critical technologies. And that is where Delhi start becoming scary. Once you get to late feudal age with all these free technologies, and then once you get to Castle Age with a dozen scholars, you can get all the critical upgrades in Castle Age in a matter of moments.
But do you see, we've got javelins, Lidda, and that is going to feel good. I am in love with the fact that JIF is going for the javelin throwers here. When you're up against Delhi, especially in the early stages, those javelin throwers do such a good job at just thinning that archer mass when your limit and A are the ones to do the critical work. But now, JIF is switching things up and going for the horsemen in the mix too, not over-investing onto these limit and A.
The javelin thrower plus limit any kind of composition is very reminiscent of the classic Donso plus javelin thrower that we commonly see from Malians, and it's the same challenge for the opposing player. Javelin throwers have a huge range, they will snipe out your archers. The only way to respond to them is really just horsemen, but if you have a spearman type unit like a Limitani, you can keep them in check. One big difference, though, is that it takes a lot more time with the Byzantines to build up the javelin thrower mass as compared to the Malians. You're kind of limited by the amount of mercenaries that you can get, so the escalation is a lot slower in comparison to what you usually see from the Malians.
Now, Valdy sees this, though, and he's like, hey, I'm dealing with horses. What is my response? Am I just making more Ghazis? And this is the difficult question you have to answer. Do I just make more Ghazis? He's like, I just need a blacksmith, boy. I'm going to get me upgrades. He needs to find an answer to this, because now all of a sudden the horsemen, you're going to need a lot more Ghazis, but your archers are naturally completely countered. And JIF, he's got a pretty solid mass to already feel comfortable pushing out, and that's exactly what's happening here. Now, trying to decap these sites, because of course that military count is very deceiving. With all the scholars counting his military units, it feels like Valdy is in a really good spot, but he has to be so careful.
A bit of a poking and prodding. Nice little job so far by JIF to deny the sacred sites. A few moments ago, he had his scout just stall out one before it got captured, and right now, it's one sacred site only for Valdy. Soon to be 0, but it looks like Valdy's going to commit. The sacred site did not get decapped. Javelin throwers focusing down the archers, but this is what I was talking about. It's only 4 javelin throwers right here, and that's enough for the archers to pick off most of the Limitani. Horsemen do swoop in, though, and that should repel the forces of Valdy for the time being.
It's doing more than repelling. It's doing such an amazing job at cleaning up every single archer that stepped out of this base. We see the Ghazi Raiders trying to take a charge in and just doing a bit of damage. But just like that, the horses have the same idea and they're going straight for those two archers at the back. And picking off those archers is so invaluable. He doesn't have that huge amount of villagers on wood to just replace this. Valdy, he's already had his sights set on going to castle, as we can see with that resource split. And all of a sudden, this is no longer something that he can do safely. Oh, Pro Scouts just bringing in that extra bit of food too.
This is a big counterattack right here from JIF. He is going to push away those units from the gold, and he caught Valdy red-handed. I think Valdy wanted to go to Castle Age just based on the resources, and this timing is just so bad for Valdy now, because even if he gets the food, he does not have the gold to age up. He's caught in between two tough positions, and JIF has just enough to deny these resources. I love the counterattack, though. This could easily be the way back for Valdy. If he can hit the eco, get a couple of villager kills, that's exactly what he needs to create a nice distraction.
And we can see the food is running a little bit low here for JIF, but he doesn't have a situation where he's got wheelbarrow either, so when this attack lands, it might actually do some damage. I say that and then the attack gets spotted. It's trying to pick off the reinforcements, but picking off the reinforcements, it might have been the way that he thought, okay, hey, this is going to be the way I beat this army, but in a critical moment, you're giving your opponent the information. Javelin throwers are diving, and Lidicor, they do not take a lot of range damage, so these guys are having a great time under the TC, but this is also so dangerous here for JIF Music. He's overcommitting under this TC, and he might get a few kills, but this is very expensive. These are not units you get to replace.
It's difficult to replace them indeed, but as you said, Javelin throwers taking little damage under the TC is so valuable, and when it's all said and done, it did what it was supposed to. It forced a lot of idle time out of Valdy, and again, Valdy is stuck in between two positions. He wants to go to castle, but he doesn't have the gold, and when you look at the top of the screen and the military balance bar, you say, oh, it's fairly balanced, but actually that's not, because the scholars count as military. When it comes to damage dealing units, Valdy has next to nothing. It's basically a few Ghazi Raiders and archers.
And a few dead villagers on the way. Oh, just one. Oh, no, never mind. Everyone makes it out alive. The horses are the victims. And all of a sudden, Valdy is in less danger. Because now those were very expensive to lose. We can see the food situation's not looking too great for JIF. He's slowly adding those farms. But it's taking its time. He needs to be so careful with these. And you can see now, JIF pulling back, he realizes, hey, this might have been a little bit of a risky move. Getting those towers up on the berries shows you how much he respects this, but oh, those javelin throwers, they've stepped out quite far and need to be careful. But with the base damage, they are going to do some good work against the Ghazis. Picks off one, Limitinate picks off another, and horses are in position to take this down. Those villagers, though, they're also the spicy variety when Akratoy is about to get activated. Those Ghazis don't dare step near.
Overall, 5 villagers were lost by Valdy in this game, and that's a big loss for a Dela player that does not have a robust economy without the actual sacred sites. Do keep in mind, no sacred sites. So, for Valdy, losing all those 5 villagers and still getting kind of forced to stay in Feudal Age is a very suboptimal position to be in, and there's going to be a second wave coming in here. JIF also trying to intercept those remaining horsemen, but those will get away. Really good job from JIF, by the way, controlling the sacred site. He really is not letting Valdy touch those in any meaningful way.
Now, Valdy is getting some military upgrades in the mix as well, and you can see he's trying to get out on the map and get some resources, and there's still a lot of resources on the map. The thing is, with 2 scouts, he hasn't been able to effectively pick up the deer, as our observer is pointing out. Those packs are fully stacked, and the man has to move out, and the problem is, JIF loves when he moves out, because this just means he gets to pick off some pesky little villagers that dare step out of that base safety. But the Ghazi Raiders, there's still nothing to scoff at, and he's bled quite a few of these javelin throwers. So it's not the same great position as we saw earlier, but of course, now he has that information about where the villagers are, and that next point of attack could be a lot more dangerous if Valdy doesn't find a response. For a moment there, it felt like Valdy was thinking about going castle again, but now he's just forced to make units over and over again.
And that's very, very bad for Valdy, because if you look at JIF, he is totally fine staying in Feudal Age, and I cannot think of anything else right now but the previous game where JIF tried to do the same thing, hit the opponent as he's aging up, but in that case, he was just a little too late. That's not the case right now.
It's about to be a raid.
Forcing Valdy to stay in Feudal Age, and he's just looking for opportunities to hit the eco again. Double towers will make it difficult. A nice little counterattack, even though the wall slows it down a bit. Valdy looking for the first villager kill of this game.
He's a little bit stuck there, unfortunately. Now, with this split, this is actually so good for Valdy to try and keep this under control. Limited name position, though. They got their time while the horses were stuck. But JIF is still in the Byzantines. He's got level 5 cisterns. That means his villagers are doing so much better than a normal old Delhi villager. So, in essence, he is quite ahead. And you can see this with the income per minute. 1.5k food per minute compared to the 800. It is a pretty sad story all around. But now, he knows where to attack.
Valdy's still thinking about going into Castle Age, but he's just constantly forced to stick around. And one thing to keep in mind is that the javelin count is not rising, though. It's still just 8 javelins, which is not an awful lot when you consider that he's been making these units for quite some time. Again, this is the big difference between this spear plus javelin play of the Malians and the Byzantines.
And Valdy's arch numbers is at a scary level where you're actually not too worried about taking archers against those javelin throwers. I say this and then I just see these horse raids everywhere. And this is exactly what JIF needs to keep Valdy under control. Because Valdy, every time he stops harassing, Valdy thinks about Castle again and again. But now he's got the army's attention and all of a sudden these javelins might have a much better chance. But the problem is just you are splitting your mass. And this is where you've lost units before.
JIF has no intention of going into Castle Age. Look at the spam of units running across the map. He's just spamming these units into the enemy, and at this point, trying to force a fight. He's trying to look for a second engagement. Army counts are still neck and neck, but again, that's a little deceiving because Valdy has a lot of scholars. One thing is sure, though. If Valdy goes into Castle Age, he can get the technology so quickly, and it looks like now he's pushing away JIF. This might be a nice window to age up.
And those javelins are in a pretty wonky position, but it doesn't feel like it's a round you want when there's 25 limit in A, and you don't really have the optimal units to handle this, but we just see alarms firing on every side. I see red dots in the base. I see yellow dots everywhere, and it just feels like everyone's trying to find a good spot to attack. Now, the javelins are in a little bit of a questionable position, but limit in A always standing ready to defend. So now villagers out there on the berries have to pull back, but that wall is invaluable and always going to be a refuge. Now JIF are ready to age up, and then this is going to be even harder for Valdy. Golden Horn Tower, the weapon of choice, and a good weapon indeed. But, of course, the most important is going to be getting those upgrades. And with the gold he has in his pocket, he is going to afford everything he needs. Limitinate, javelins, and whatever else his heart desires.
It's a concern for JIF, though. Because as much as you said, he can afford those upgrades. Valdy will not even have to afford them. He's up to Castle Age with 14 scholars, and this is where the Delhi machine starts grinding. Suddenly, he has all the scholars out there, and he can get these technologies in a blink of an eye and have a massive one-up over Valdy in early Castle Age.
Now, the problem is just the lack of good units he might get from this. And we do see the age up coming through instantly. Javelin upgrades coming in, mercenaries, and our secondary one, Cataphracts. Not an upgrade, he says. We rather just need the Castle Age unit. And this is interesting because Valdy also opted for the first thing getting it was the elephant. And the importance of it, we can already see. He says, this is what I need. I'm not going to be bending on anything else. And still, JIF has the gold, but he's saying, no, I don't need upgrades. I just need more Cataphracts.
I don't hate the Catapract idea, because your opponent has a very slow-moving army, and Catapracts can be incredibly devastating when you can just trickle them into the eco and snipe off a few villagers. Do keep in mind, JIF is up by 10 eco. So that's a strong consideration here. And Valdy has not been on sacred sites for a long, long time. Limited relics so far as well. JIF posturing in front of those, making it difficult to pick up. And all of that just, you know, leads to the conclusion that JIF could try to just play cavalry, keep sniping villagers, keep sniping scholars, and kind of confine the opponent into his base.
And Valdy hasn't had access to more gold. The only gold he's gotten the access to has turned into ghulams, and these ghulams, they're going to be countered by the crossbows coming out now. JIF are reinvesting there, getting the +2 ranged armor as well with Valdy's heavy investment into archers. This is exactly what he needs. And Valdy's food economy, let's take a quick look at his farm transition, if there such a thing exists, but it does look like there's a handful of farms here. Yeah, he's starting under the TC. Handful. And Byzantines, on the other hand, let's go see what their oil production is at. It's not the Byzantines economy that you're too afraid of, but it's still scary. You still have olive oil you're fighting against, and again, with the scholars counting as military, JIF is in a good spot.
He is. He's up by 10 eco. The army value is also much, much better. If you look at Valdy, it's spearmen archers. You have 18 javelin throwers against that, 20 archers, 9 Catapracts is no joke either. It just feels like, you know, those bars at the top of the screen are not necessarily doing Valdy justice. Granted, if he can just sit back and get all those upgrades for free, that's gonna make a huge difference. You're down 10 villagers, but if you have all the eco upgrades from Castle Age and your opponent does not, it is a totally different story.
And it's definitely something that's showing its head, that you can see JIF having to forego some of his upgrades to just stay on level here with the military, and villagers, again, getting raided. And even if they don't go down, it's still that idle time and the lack of income, constant oil income, that is going to affect this. But JIF, he is going to need to attack pretty soon. If Valdy is just, like you said, he's getting all of these for free. And the problem is his base is going to get safer and safer as time progresses. But those Ghulams are trying their best at holding this back. But the Cataphracts have spotted it and they're seeing this keep come up. That's going to be a deadly charge.
Yeah, that's going to be so nasty. Villagers will have to make a run for it. But it's not like you have anything that kills the Cataphracts here. These are pure archers. There is one elephant, but, well, good luck chasing. No crossbows, and the spearmen are nowhere to be found. This castle does get stalled out. And remember, Valdy is already down in the villager department. Continuously losing additional villagers is going to start to hurt very, very soon. And now the whole army is converging on this location. With that many javelin throwers and archers, I don't think Valdy has enough power to stop this attack. Luckily for him, JIF hesitates a bit here.
Now, JIF is finally getting a bit of a camel situation for himself. He's had enough of the javelins. But this could also just be the Golden Horn Tower reinforcing his mass. And finally getting an archer upgrade, a little horseman upgrade. He's gonna feel good. But now we're fighting under a keep, and this is where we've seen him lose games before. And now, quickly, those trades are not going to be as simple as they used to be. Javelin throwers, they don't take a lot of ranged damage, but they still do under keeps, but those arrow fires are a little bit heavier. But now he's trying to snipe out as much as he can. I just don't know if he's going to be too confident about this.
Right now it's a poke and prod game, and he's kind of leveraging the range of those javelin throwers, perhaps overstaying his welcome a little. But I also wonder if he's just trying to bait the enemy out of his base. Give them the javelins, say, come out, get me. And then when they do, you use the archers to pick off the spears, you use the crossbows to pick up the elephants. It's kind of the fight that he's been waiting for, slowly trickling away at that army. He now has all 3 sacred sites under his control, and that range advantage on the javelins is coming in so useful here.
The bait was taken. Perfectly baited. JIF is bait king right now. And the thing about Byzantines is they're so good at keeping these sacred sites. We can see that stone. That stone is a scary amount of stone when you are the Byzantines. That's almost 2 mangonel emplacements. And Anyone who's played against Byzantines, you know the power of this, but the fight is ongoing and it looks like the elephants are the front line. Now, of course, the cataphracts running past the keep, not really too scared about this, but they're right on top of the elephants, and it looks like this ranged mass is feeling confident enough to take the fight under the TC, and the TC fire, it's going to need to do a lot of work.
The cataphracts got detached to the right side. They were looking for villagers, but they didn't find anything. Scholars now coming in here for a Wololo. It's a double Wololo attempt. It's a run for JIF, though. He does get outside of the circle here, focusing down some of those Scholars. Looks like when it's all said and done, there is some idle time here for Valdy. 14 villagers lost overall, but for this specific fight, I think he held his own. He pushed away the enemy army and he barely lost any additional villagers despite the heavy dive.
This, again, it just feels like people are diving in, overestimating how much fire these units can take, losing a bunch and pulling back. But, like you said, he got a few, but it is not as optimal as you would have liked to see from him. This man, he's got the sacred sites, he's got some olive oil in the bank, and honestly, I just noticed the 1,700 gold he's got in the bank. He gets to decide what happens next, and finally, with the trebuchet, we have an idea of what happens next, and those towers are right in front of the base. No longer going to be a threat on the sacred sites, but rather mangonel towers at the front of your base. A very different story.
One of the issues that Valdy is having here, I feel, and that's part of the reason why JIF can even afford or justify these towers here, is lack of mobility from Valdy. He's got an incredibly slow army, and on a map like Gorge, this map is screaming for raids, even though JIF has some walls up. That raiding option is not there for Valdy. He's down 17 villagers with virtually no opportunity to make up for that differential right now. So JIF can just posture in front of his base and say, hey, I can focus all my attention here because I know that you're not going to be raiding me.
Now, it does look like he's looking confident enough to step in under the keep yet again, and the javelin throwers are just looking for one victim at a time, not looking at splitting that fire too much. Loses a 1 or 2, but he feels it's worth it, and now that slow push forward is going to be the scary one. The third trebuchet is going to be a difficult one to handle. And it doesn't feel like Valdy can produce anything that really can deal with this. 1 gold in the bank, he's spending everything on an elephant.
Yeah, that's such a big problem right now for Valdy. His resource availability is very underwhelming. He does not have any of the sacred sites as Delhi, and that's as bad as it gets. On the other side, there is technically a sacred site countdown for JIF, although maintaining control for 10 continuous minutes on 3 different sacred sites is always tough. But that's also a nice passive trickle of gold for him. And overall, I just feel like JIF is waiting for his opponent to make a move, and when he does, he's going to pounce on that.
Oh, and quickly, just exploiting every part of, I know I have more units than you, let me show you. But the elephant mass is still scary here. He will be able to make a play towards decapping, but the problem is no longer the decapping. The problem is the trebuchets. So you may take those sacred sites back, but brother, I am going to be firing you down all too slowly. And I love this from JIF. He's constantly dove a little bit too deep, learning from that, and now trying to step back and do this the safe way. He's got to be careful with these elephants, though. He's only got a handful of Limited. He's got 41 crossbows, which do pretty well, but you still have a very mobile army that you might need to deal with when the massive spears descend on you too.
What even is that? There is like a bigger red line across the map, and I'm trying to figure out if he's trying to build an aqueduct right there.
Oh, so the buildings take less damage. The buildings will take less damage, Littlecore. Once he activates it. Once he activates it.
That's such a nice little detail here. And we've seen this from JIF in previous games. He's slow and methodical. He's just grinding down the enemy base. Do keep in mind, it's a match point for Valdy. If JIF misplays this, he's out from the main league. So it's totally understandable that he's playing a very slow and methodical game. Kind of what he did in game number 1, actually, on Hill and Dale. He's getting ready to go into Imperial as well. He's at 200 population, so he can justify doing so. I would not be surprised if a forward castle came in just a moment.
Oh.
Looks like Valdy's going to have something to say about that.
Now, this is still a very tricky position. Now, of course, JIF has a major advantage with the units, with the value of these units as well. Those are just the massive spears and archers, which, honestly, when I'm up against this many cataphracts and javelin throwers, I am quaking in my boots. JIF now just trying to snipe out what he can with these javelins. And of course, the later the game goes, the worse these get. So sacrificial javelins they shall be. But the cataphracts are standing at the front. And even though he's ready to age up, he's also ready to take the fight. The man has no fear. He's going straight for it. The elephants, though, that AoE damage might just make a little bit of a difference. We've got a warlord front line. And it slowly deters circles from all around. Quick snipe coming through, but he does need to be careful and backs off and buys himself a little bit more time.
The towers don't have any emplacements on them, which feels like a bit of a blunder here. Do keep in mind, way too many scholars out there for Valdy, so he was able to keep the front line healthy and intact. Nice little counterattack here by Valdy. Mangonel emplacements coming in on the towers, though, and you still need to be careful about this if you are Valdy, because the front line is slowly melting away. But this is a beautiful counterattack, as good as it gets for the circumstances. Probably a good time to fall back now for Valdy, and he kind of agrees with that, it seems.
The mangonel emplacements just came on through, and the elephants are doing their work against it, but they may take some victims along the way. We can see everyone trying to back off, but yeah, it's definitely a good shot or two. But like you said, it's a bit of a blunder, and it's surprising because JIF has shown us he's confident, and he's not going to be overconfident about this. And just like that, he saved up that stone, hoping for a keep, but instead costing him a massive chunk of his army. He had the resources in the bank to replenish this, and a good read on not going up to Imperial Age, because this would have cost him the game.
Now, do keep in mind, he was at 200 population when he clicked to Imperial, so even when he cancelled Imperial, he is just going to replenish his forces, and now he's back to 200, he's getting ready to go Imperial again. Compare that to Valdy, who had a weaker eco. Valdy isn't able to do that. He's still stuck at 140 population. So when it's all said and done, the keep is gone, allowing all these forces to swing south. And at the same time, Valdy is struggling with the replenishment of that army.
And now you just have this mass in your base that will pick off reinforcements. And for an engineering company, our weapon of choice, very normal choice, nothing crazy here. He's going to be getting some extra nice units, and with the gold he's got in the bank, he's got enough to upgrade his mercenaries, and that's all he needs.
A lot of the farming eco is also being idled out here. Still 3 sacred sites under the control of JIF. By the way, a lot of walls being dragged across the map here. JIF trying to wall off the whole northern segment. That got denied, and now a wall is coming in here from Valdy to counter that. It's just chaos all over. And I just want to touch on something very, very subtle here. There is a second town center for JIF. So part of the reason why he's pulling ahead in terms of villagers is because of that.
Especially with village fortresses out and this many keeps, you might think, oh, Delhi is going to start catching up. But oof, at this point, that second TC has really paid dividends. And now siege engineering being researched, and we're getting an upgrade for our crossbows. Apparently, crossbows more important, which makes sense. He's got 48 of them. With that number, you do not want to take any risks. Now, with that being said, we have our cannon coming on out, and I am excited to see this because this is exactly what he needs to do that slow push. And the push is not going to be that slow anymore with these upgrades ticking. Valdy is just, he stopped producing units. He wants to go Imperial himself, I assume. Oh, I say that and cursed him. Quickly clicks up a few, but he's got that 16 on gold, and he realizes, hey, I need to find a way to equalize this. The problem is just, I don't think there's an answer in equalization.
It's the same story that we've seen in some of the previous games. When one player is up by a full age advantage and they have the tech advantage as well, you can click up, but the moment you do, your opponent is going to engage with a much, much better army. The composition was already better for JIF, and now he has a full age advantage to fight this one. And indeed, he's probably anticipating an age up here from Valdy, decides to dive in, and this should be a clean up. Bit of a misclick here with the crossbows, though they were pursuing the elephants. Dove a little too deep, perhaps. And maybe an overextension once again from JIF. Could have waited a little more. But at the end of the day, oh boy, Vololo coming in here, trying to snipe out the Scholars, has to snipe them out!
Oh no!
And the Vololo might go through!
Oh no! Do those stay elite? They stay elite. Oh, those are so difficult to deal with. And just like that, Valdy is back and Valdy is pushing. But the problem is just there are a few keeps in the middle and it's not going to be that easy. But he has a bit of breathing room and he finally has the opportunity to age up himself. More crossbows coming out and JIF, he is not feeling too good about that one. I'd say, confidently.
That's an understatement. That could be the series. That could be his tournament life on the line.
Oh.
Now there's a counterattack of Imperial Age units. He's going to be shielded from the age up. Look at the army count. If all that Valdy does is charge this army into the enemy base to buy time for the age up, it was worth it. But he could do so much more with that. This is as bad as it gets for JIF, and if he ends up losing this series, we're going to look at this game, that moment with the Vololos, and say, yeah, that was it.
Voldemort, he feels like he's got this on track again. The problem is the scholar numbers are not what they used to be, so the upgrades are going to take about 600 years to hit. But luckily, with the handful of Imperial Age crossbows, he does have an answer to a lot of it. He does sacrifice most of them, though. And sure, a cannon is firing away, but JIF is able to replenish this, and there's still a difference in economy here. JIF has this game in the bag if Voldemort loses everything, and that's exactly what Voldemort does. Yes.
Yeah, maybe a little overzealous with that army was Valdy. I understand where he was coming from. He needed a diversion, he needed to shield his age up, but his economy is so feeble. Still just 90 villagers, and, you know, if he was a little bit more conservative with that army, perhaps, at least just, like, buy time until you get to Imperial, start getting your key techs in. This would have been a different story. But he lost that army way too quickly. He wanted diversion, and sure enough, JIF was diverted, but not for too long. And there is another thing here that we haven't touched on. The Sacred Site timer. It's down to 5 minutes.
And honestly, Lidicor, I think Twitch chat might know this as well. We've seen this from Voldemort before, by the way. Voldemort winning a fight very convincingly, getting ahead, and just diving in, feeling too confident. And I can completely understand the high of getting that, but it feels like something, like a very small mistake every time that does get him. The cannons, though, they are not going to make this an easy time. And you can see he can't even spend his resources at this point. Now getting a few hand cannoneers in the mix too. And all of a sudden, Valdy is back where he was. Maybe even worse off at the moment, because that was the rest of his army as well. And like you said, Sacred Site, 4 minutes left, and there is no way to decap this in a timely manner.
Yeah, I just feel like, I wonder if Valdy simply knew the position that he was in. He probably knew that his eco was weaker, he knew that he was on the back foot, so maybe that counterattack was more so a Hail Mary, and just see if he can leverage that and make some crazy eco damage, but with all the walls up, he wasn't able to. Starting TC is getting taken out, second landmark as well. It's kind of a pick your poison at this point for Valdy. Is he going to lose to the Sacred Site countdown, to the landmark snipes, or just the slow grinding down of his army and the eco? I'm starting to feel like, you know, this game is turning into a matter of if, or well, I guess a matter of when and not an if.
There was an if there for a moment, but no longer, as JIF is finally looking at closing it out yet again, and he has enough resources to replenish the whole army if needed. So even with this, he's taking some risky pushes, but he doesn't care. 3 minutes on the clock, army ready to replenish, and a whole lot of vibes to be caught. He's like, take my army again. Let's see you do this.
Let's just say this, though. Even if JIF wins this game, which seems extremely likely with 2.5 minutes left on the Sacred Site timer and cannons in front of the enemy base, he did everything in his power in those moments to lose it. That loss of army could have been catastrophic for him, could have easily cost him the series. Thankfully for him, his advantage was significant enough to overcome that loss.
Now, with this position, you gotta ask yourself, is Voldemort confidently feeling that he's got that last game? He still has an insanely strong amount of power in his wheelhouse. And that's just, he's going to be perfectly okay waiting this one out a little bit and going for that final game. So I don't think this is something that Voldemort is looking at and saying like, oh, it's GG. He's still got a decent chance of taking this. He just needs to wait it out. But it does look like this is going to be a pretty heavy push as we see 1 minute 45 left and still no Hail Mary. We see some yellow dots spreading around and sure, the cannons might go down, but JIF has more in his pocket.
It's a Hail Mary, but it's a good one. Hand Cannoneers are vastly superior to everything that JIF has, and that's part of the reason why Valdy is winning this fight. Do keep in mind, though, resources are non-existent for Valdy. He can push, but if there's a second wave here for JIF coming in, I don't know how much momentum he can sustain. This is a good counterattack, 1 minute left on the Sacred Site timer. The bare minimum for Valdy is decapping one of the Sacred Sites, and he might actually do it. Maybe not this one, but the one to the north could be a good target. He needs to decap the Sacred Site. If he does that, there could be some kind of trajectory back into this game, but it's a now or never. Elephant is going to soak up a lot of damage, and with the Hand Cannoneers on the backline, he is cleaning up JIF's army. Unable to start contesting the Sacred Site just yet, however.
And with all of the units he's just thrown at it, it is finally looking like they are making their way to getting the victory. 1 minute on the clock. Valdy gave it his all. He pushed as much as he can. But now he was not ready to think about the next game strategies. He was still solidly in this one, and he was making sure of it. But again, with these upgrades, you don't have those scholar numbers, where the university upgrades may have also help this a little bit, and now JIF is just the one with every upgrade in the book. He's already got that elite army tactics too. He's got everything in his pocket, and 30 seconds left. Voldemort is making him wait this out, and if these guys can play the game normally after this and not need a tiny break, I will be floored because I'm exhausted just from watching.
It is 15 seconds left on the timer. It's one final Hail Mary here as Valdy dives the Sacred Site. He's even pulling villagers, but let's be real. Even if he decaps that Sacred Site, it is going to cost him everything, and he knows that. Taps out of this game and takes us into a final decider game. What an awesome series to look at here. It is neck and neck. And this one final game is going to decide who gets to play in the main league of Elite Classic 4 and who is going to be the player for the Silver League.
And this is such a tight position for you to be in. Again, both of these guys in such a tight series to try and decide this. So Valdy, yesterday, it was 1-3 against Demu, but this time, JIF, he's got something to prove. He cannot have a 3-2 loss. It needs to be his W. So let's see if this man can do it.
A long series that we had here. This game, 40 minutes. We started off with a 40-minute long Hill and Dale game as well. And so far, one of the most intense decider series of the day. JIF and Valdy both looking for that final spot in the main event. And our final game is going to be on Borderland, but before that, we of course have the highlights of this game. And all across the board, I think a key factor to look at was simply the eco advantage that JIF was able to sustain, and the fact that the Sacred Sites were consistently cut off from the Delhi player. When there is zero Sacred Site access across the game for the Delhi player, that's usually a bad sign. And with the eco advantage that JIF had in the villager department, that was just a slow grind. Having said that, we're extremely unlikely to see such a long game in game number 5. We've seen two very long and grindy games, game number 1 and game number 4. Game number 5 on Boldland is one that features a much more open setting, much more aggressive and easy to pounce on early advantages. Some crazy moments in this game though, a lot of attempted vololos. And I have to say, one of the key moments of the tournament, this conversion attempt that could have been catastrophic for JIF had he not have a huge advantage at that point. I'll just let you sit back and watch this because this was a beautiful moment, one of the nicest moments of the series.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to hop into our final game of the night. Valdy and JIF music, 2.5 minutes until this. And ladies, we're getting another Abbasid. I'm ready. And like you said, Macedonians had no chance. Abbasid was the only option they had.
Yeah, that's just how it's gonna go. Even if Macedonians are available, they are snipeable, and they get taken out here. Abbasid versus a Sengoku Dynasty setup, which is a very intriguing point of conversation. I think we've seen something similar to this earlier today. It was a Japanese versus Abbasid setup, and there we also talked about the Abbasid's ability to counter the Mounted Samurai. Because, let's be real, when it comes to Japanese, when it comes to the Sengoku Dynasty, it often comes down to the Mounted Samurai play. So in a way, the question is, how is JIF going to counter that? One thing is sure though, it's going to be so much more difficult to have a lengthy game like we've seen on Hill and Dale, like we've seen on Gorge, here on Baldland.
Yeah, this is a map that with those thin wood lines, they become a target pretty quickly. And you don't get to just sit back in your base and let the late game do the talking. You actually have to make something happen. I feel like Sengoku might be a little bit better at this, what we saw historically, but we haven't seen too much of them in recent days, and we haven't seen too much of them against Abbasid either. So you have two very big question marks, or at least a medium question mark on Sengoku, but Abbasid, I really want to see this aggression and what this looks like from Abbasid to take control. Because at the same time, you don't want to let Sengoku boom. You don't want to let, or when I say boom, I mean get the Matsuri up and running. So it's definitely, I feel, on JIF to make things happen here. But if there's someone who can make things happen, I believe it to be JIF, our new goat, our Isle of Man goat. Now, Valdy, it is the Danish goat, right? Everyone's the goat. But, Lita, if you were a man on Baldland, what civilization would you want to be fielding?
Oh, this is a tough one. It's a very, very tough one. And I'll give you my usual diplomatic, absolutely meaningless answers. I would say Sengoku in the hands of JIF, which is the exact opposite of what we have. I think that would be a very fun situation, but that's not what we're going to see here. We head into game number 5. Valdy with the Sengoku Daimyo in yellow, and on the other side, JIF with the Abbasids. I'm curious how JIF can actually leverage the Abbasids for that very classic raiding and poke and prod heavy playstyle that he has demonstrated throughout the day, because I just feel like the Abbasids are not necessarily great at that. Sengoku, on the other hand, is actually quite good at this.
The poking and the prodding playstyle, you say? Yeah, I feel like JIF is not really sitting on the usual driver's seat of a civilization that we've seen out of him in the recent games. We've seen him be an aggressive one, but at the same time, I feel like he's a very balanced player. I feel so far from what we've seen from him, he knows how to be creative, he knows when to switch, but Voldemort just, he has a solid meta in his hands, he knows exactly how to play the meta, and he will expose you to the meta. And Sengoku is the meta right now. They're the civilization that keeps you under control, and this map, it favors the raider. So if he doesn't get too damaged in all of this, he should be okay. But let's take a quick look at the spawns, because I think this can also contribute to what we see here. Now, I'm seeing Yatai investment all the way, Sengoku being a greedy goose, what a surprise. But is Abbasid going to be able to punish that? We've seen time and time again, they just go for a good stable. But spawn-wise, where do you land? Lidicor absolutely speechless after my...
Yeah, this was too high level for my exhausted brain, because we've been here for a while, and, you know, that's something that we need to consider here going into game number 5. These players have been playing the whole day. This series on its own has been at least 2 hours now. So that attrition is starting to kick in for the players. Something that we're going to have to keep an eye out on here in game number 5.
So now, taking a quick look at what we're dealing with in front of us, though, we have a nice little wood line there to the top that can easily be walled off for a little bit less of a raiding situation, but it is quite exposed there at the bottom. Now, this does mean that the secondary berries won't be too difficult to keep under control, especially being that close. But of course, with you going for the economic wing and nobody on stone, this is not going to be a greedy Abbasid. It's never mind. I didn't see my minimap. Thank you, Mr. Observer. We have boys on stone, ladies and gentlemen. Big announcement. But still a ton of villagers on gold, just to make sure we can get all those upgrades we need. And this kind of plays a little bit into Sengoku's playstyle of them wanting a little bit of time too. And the Ryukan coming out just means that they're not going to mind diving when the time is right. And also, he's still got 6 on gold. What is this? Are we just going the dirtiest fast castle we can?
It feels a little too premature for a fast castle, if you ask me. There's just not enough... you're committing way too many villagers for building this landmark if you want to fast castle this. But it's not a terrible idea. Even if it's not a complete fast castle, a semi-fast castle could be a very nice approach. Simply because you know that the Abbasid player is going to play 2 TCs. So why not go fast castle, pick up the relics, and on a map like this, it's actually fairly easy to punish a 2 TC build because you're always going to have an angle from which you can charge him with some cavalry and pick off some villagers.
Now, with Ryukan, you get to pick off and you get to heal up. So it doesn't feel like a risky play. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything that can put you in danger for not lasting all the way through. But we do see Valdy now going for the wood, as you would, because you need to make sure you get that every bit of eco advantage up. And stable coming out quickly. No surprise there, but I'm a little bit surprised on the position of the stable. Can we quickly click on the Ryukan so I can see that range? Because on the Ryukan, on the landmark. Let's go. I see the computer is lagging. Click on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this stable, if he's rallied just not a little bit south, he's not going to be able to get that buff on the units. So this is something that you very easily can make a mistake with. Because, of course, your units need to run through that range to be able to heal up. And this is something that can easily get left behind when you are overwhelmed.
It's not just going to be a stable, it's actually going to be quite a lot. There is a range being built right next to that. What else? There was a third structure as well. It's quite a significant build-up, and it's at the back of the base. Kind of makes you feel like he's trying to hide this away from the opponent.
Now, when you don't want your opponent to know what's happening, you don't pick a civilization like Sengoku where everyone knows what's going on. But we do see with the clan coming out, it is the ranged one. So you're not dealing with the horse upgrades, you're dealing with a man who's planning to go for a lot of Yumis. But at the same time, also going for Yari cavalry. So the Yari is going to give him the idea, hey, you need to make spears. But you making spears is already playing into exactly what Valdy wants you to do. He wants you to invest in spears because those Yumis are going to be ready to pepper you down.
It's kind of something that you have to do if you are playing into a 2TC Abbasid play, because if you don't dictate the tempo of the game, then no one will. The Abbasid player will just sit back. If you don't force them to do things, they will just chill and build villagers on 2 town centers. So, bringing in a diverse composition forces them to respond, and it's not just a matter of what units they have to make, it's also what production buildings they have to invest into. If you bring a diverse array of units, they also have to build multiple production buildings, which obviously slows their eco expansion a tiny bit.
Now, with that second TC being in such a safe position and also securing the wood line, it doesn't feel like JIF is in too much imminent danger, but he needs to think about what this looks like. Because we saw this with Abbasid beforehand, or before on Gorge. With Abbasid, you have to be ready for that transition. You need to be able to respond to this pressure that's about to head your way. But JIF might just respond and Valdy will be in castle. Because that's exactly where he's headed. He's responsibly making units while heading towards that castle age. So he's feigning this commitment that doesn't even exist. And JIF, only now making archers, he's going to take a while to have the numbers to handle even just those 2 Yumis that are circling the base. But double stable gets invested into, and this is exactly what Valdy wanted.
It's very, very difficult to perceive these kinds of bait and switches when you're playing a full eco-heavy setup. You see, JIF is trying to move out of his base with that scout, trying to gain some information, but because you have horsemen roaming the map, that information is being denied, so JIF has absolutely no idea when Valdy stops making an army. And you cannot assume that your opponent will stop making army, because if you do, you just get overrun. So as you said, this kind of a bait-and-switch approach makes it very difficult for JIF to decide how to approach this problem. And Valdy's using that to age up the Castle Age. He's going to use the Sake Brewery. He's going to start running for the relics as well. If you're JIF, you need to get some kind of intel over here. Probably the fact that there is no build-up in front of your base. And the moment you see that that is the case, you're just going to have to rush towards Castle Age. Even then, that's going to be so tough, because with the Abbasids, you cannot simply rush an age up.
And of course, we have to consider there's a little bit of that timer again in your head where you're thinking, okay, I need to hit this by a certain point. And for him, he's already gotten that 11 villager lead. This feels pretty good, but it might just be something that Voldemort is aware of, and he's saying, okay, I just need to get some kind of lead. I've already got my Matsuri pumping. He's already got a little bit of a bonus there. But now with that Mounted Samurais, he's going to have a pretty good answer when it comes to diving as well, because those little second TCs, they barely fire anything, and he's getting +1 attack, so he's not looking at making... Oh, +1 ranged attack, so he's not looking at being too passive for too long.
Yeah, JIF is in a tough spot here, because now he needs to make something happen, and this reminds me of the Coastal Cliffs game that we've seen, where he just gets beaten to Castle Age, and now he needs to make a decision. Does he age up? Or does he fight? And I feel like here, fighting is just absolutely futile.
And that he knows this, though. Look at those villagers on gold. This man is rushing to castle himself, but the counter raid is so good. It's going to force a reaction from Valdy, most likely. But he gets 2 villagers, and already a massive pickup when you are the one this far ahead in villagers, not an army.
If JIF makes it to Castle Age, his position is going to be great. He's going to be up by 17 eco. All he needs to do is make sure he doesn't get absolutely hammered here as he's aging up. And he needs to make sure that his opponent cannot get the majority of the relics. All of these are easier said than done, but so far he's been doing a really nice job. Just 4 horsemen harassing those villagers creates enough distraction to get him to Castle Age here.
Oh, and him picking up... Oh, I was going to say him picking up the resource card, but he doesn't spot it. He's just getting his units to safety. He's just going to go for the Yatta instead. And Valdy is circling around like a hungry vulture, just trying to get more damage done. Now, of course, military wing coming in, it's great, but he also needs a little bit of extra gold to just get the upgrades needed to actually deal with these units that are going to be pouring into his base constantly. And then our next question is food. Where are we on the food situation? Because this man most likely doesn't have a single farm in that base, and he is going to have a much harder time of just keeping that production up and running. But Valdy, he's also not in the greatest food situation. The difference is, he's the aggressor. He most likely will have access to the rest of the map, while JIF is the one who's going to be on the back foot. But we do see some farms forming around. It's just going to be a tough time for a while here.
Dive coming in here from Valdy. It's a very squishy army, though. It's just light archers and a handful of cavalry. Cavalry will be repelled by the spearmen, and, you know, this is exactly what JIF needed. A dive that yields virtually no results. He's got 500 gold in the bank, so he's pretty well secured. And his opponent is playing archers. He's got perfect answers to that. He can play his own archers and mix in a couple of crossbows against the mounted samurai, or he can potentially go Gulam, which is not even a gold-heavy unit, so he can easily afford that. Perhaps just play super heavy horsemen. So many options available, and he makes it to Castle Age with a 20 villager lead.
And he decided to go for none of the above and goes for lances instead. But it also makes sense. You are dealing with a ton of archers, a lot of Yumi here. And you do want something tanky, but it might be a very expensive choice he's just made for himself. Because there's still more Yumis coming, more spearmen, and it's definitely a choice that I'm putting a big question mark on and wondering if this is the one for him. But Gulam's coming out now. He is making 2 of those. The problem is just how long is he going to be able to produce this? Because again, the food is running so dangerously low, and the spears here, they are going to need to provide the refuge against these cavalry, but the archers are in position, and the spears don't have their upgrades yet, but the fight is going to get taken. At least just trying to push it off for a little bit.
If you're Valdy, you don't want to take this fight. You just want to posture in front of the enemy base and force them to move out to resources. If you take a direct fight here, you might actually end up losing your forces. Needs to be very careful. First Lancers are coming in. Same with the Gulams. At the same time, there is very little beyond those Yumi archers in that army. Just a couple of mounted samurai. But that's a lot of Yumi archers, and there is more coming across the map. This is a huge spam here coming out of Valdy.
And you can see JIF has chopped the last bit of the gold. He's got access to villagers running for their lives, but there's no resources for him to fall back onto. You see that second TC with a few farms around? It's going to provide refuge to 8 and only 8. Nothing else is going to stay in there, but those TCs need to fire at the archers, so the spears will live another day. Mounted Samurai right on top, and it feels like JIF is struggling, but at the same time, Voldemort is committing quite deeply under these TCs, and is this going to be an overcommitment from him?
I don't know if that's going to be an overcommitment. What I do know is that this game is going to be decided in the next few minutes. If Valdy can keep up this level of pressure, the 30 villager advantage that JIF has is going to evaporate in a blink of an eye. He's up against 2 sacred sites. Relics will come in for Valdy, and there's so much idle time right now for JIF. 24 idle villagers right now. As you said, limited access to food. Just look at those income per minute counters. Despite the fact that Valdy is down by 20 villagers, his eco is actually more functional.
Oh, JIF was not able to produce anything for a while here. Now, deciding to invest in more lancers, he's seen this commitment to archers, but Mounted Samurai behind this is the choice for Valdy. So Valdy is transitioning without him knowing that this is coming, and I don't think he's emotionally prepped for what's about to hit. So JIF now trying to get those farms up desperately, as we saw him clicking, but the archers here are going to find another bunch of victims, and he needs to pull off again. It feels like a constant raid, and there's no refuge for these guys. They're just idle again and again and again, and that's almost 30 villagers just running for their lives. That poor little tower can fire all at once, but it's got +2 range defense, and these guys are not looking at dying anywhere. Valdy, he wants this final spot, and he's confident in taking it.
When you look back at the Coastal Cliffs game, one of the things that was missing from Valdy is picking off villagers. He was very aggressive, just like he is right now in that game, but he wasn't really able to turn that into eco damage. That is not the case right now. He's slowly chipping away at the villager count, forcing a lot of idle time. He's trickling in units to the south as well. All across the board, he is causing eco damage to JIF, and it's starting to show really badly. Look at this. Another cav unit coming in here, trying to snipe out the villagers. It's not just the idle time, it's also the casualties. A few moments ago, you had 25 villagers lead for JIF. That's only 15 now.
And this doesn't feel the same when you know your opponent also has that Yatai bonus that has been ticking, and that just means his villagers are working effectively. It's more than just a slight villager advantage. It's idle time non-stop. The spears are trying to make this work. You see that TC firing straight at the Yumi. He's trying to kill as many as he can, so these spears and Gulams can do the work they need to. I say spears, but there's only a single one left. Crossbows trying to hope for a miracle, but it looks like JIF's journey is coming to a sweet end here, as the army value is hitting the single digits, and Valdy, his yellow line is not stopping anytime soon.
It feels like it was so close yesterday for JIF. Took off 2 games out of Louis Empty, almost made it into the main event. And today, in an absolutely cutthroat neck-and-neck series, he looks like he is going to fall short once again. Valdy looking to seal the deal. The gold miners get spotted, and JIF throws in the towel. Valdy, crazy series, secures the final spot in the main event of Elite Classic 4. And for JIF, as heartbreaking as this is, he is going to go into the Silver League as one of the strongest candidates out there. And, you know, regardless of what happens, JIF put himself on the map here in competitive AoE 4. And if his rise continues at the pace that it has been progressing recently, he could easily become a household name in the next few months.
Oh, JIF is showing us a side we've never seen before. And guys, that was absolutely wild to watch. This series was so close, and for a moment here, it looked like JIF was going to be able to hold on with this lack of food, lack of resources, but that's the problem with Baldland. You have an advantage if you can get control of these little woodlines, and JIF was nowhere near going to be able to get that opportunity for harassment when you have such a huge amount of Yumis knocking at your door, as we can see here. Mounted Samurai trying to get to the front lines, and they were the refuge that any man could dream of. Those villagers living with nightmares for those who stayed alive till the end.
That's not a lot, though.
JIF made sure
it was
of
such
it.
a chaotic series, right? I'm just looking back at everything that we've seen. Every single game was chaotic and messy, and it was frankly very, very difficult to call because of all these back and forths.
And constantly getting to that back and forth is so surprising. Voldemort, he gave us quite a scare there. After game number 4, I felt like the motivation might have been completely broken from our Danish brother. But now we see 2 Danes making it through as MSN takes down Creator as well. So making Denmark proud, MSN and Valdy joining them all together. Ves, as they would say.
Boy, what a lineup here. You know, yesterday, when you look at the players that qualified, we had 4 players qualify yesterday. Those being Louis Empty, Killjardy, Demu, and Numadon. All household names. Today, it's very much the opposite. Corvinus is really the only one that has been, you know, consistently competing in big events and oftentimes making it to the main event. Perhaps you could say that for Valdy, but that has not been the theme very consistently so far. MSN and Gully Deco making it into the top 16. Certainly surprising, unexpected, and I'm very, very curious to see how they're going to perform. One thing is sure, we are seeing a lot of rising players in here. Players that didn't just qualify. They took out some big names in doing so, and it is so refreshing to see these new faces coming up. And that's part of the reason why the Silver League is going to be so fun. If you're an up-and-coming player and you haven't made it into the main event, more than $2,500 available for you to pick up in the Silver League as well.